This meeting of the Safety Committee is about to begin. I think right at the beginning, I'm going to have to say that I've changed agenda item number 8 to be number 3, and that's been cleared with the council. I did it the right way too, I think. Right, former chair?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You are too kind. Okay. So, first thing is, Ms. Winter, would you please take a roll call?
Chair Boylan,
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair Arascata,
Here.
Regent Batista, Regent Brown,
Present.
Regent Downs.
Here.
You do have a quorum present.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. So, next thing, of course, is Pledge of Allegiance. Regent Brown, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah.
You are too kind. Voice is loud, but you can. For those who would like to call in and offer public comment, please dial 669-444-9171 and enter meeting ID 933-5568. Wait a minute, meeting ID, yes, 7402 and passcode 555-555. Is there any public comment at GBC?
There is none at this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any public comment at the system office in Reno?
Yes, we have one.
Go ahead. You have 2 minutes for your public comment. State your name and spell out your last name properly, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gloria Charlene, Sharlein. I'm a mother, athlete, faculty, coach, and more. I just wanted to say that in sports, the inclusion of trans women in female categories could not be balanced with fairness and safety. Here's what the science says. Males in strength have 40 to 50% greater upper limb strength, 20 to 40% greater lower limb strength, 27 pounds more skeletal muscle mass. The height and size of 50% of males are taller than some of 97% of females. Males have a stronger and denser skeleton, longer arms and legs, bigger hands and feet, larger heart, greater blood volume, higher hemoglobin concentration, and bigger lungs. The impact on sports is that the muscle strength and the physiological and size differences are reflected in sporting performance, and males having 10 to 12% faster times in swimming and running events, 20% better results in jumping events, and 50% greater weightlifting ability. The impacts of hormone suppression in this category is while many sports currently try to neglect male physiological advantages based on testosterone suppression and measurement, science found there is currently no direct evidence that this can be achieved by suppression of hormone levels. On the contrary, there is an apparent lifelong physiological advantages in the adult male, only some of which can be reversed. Science found that after 12 months in studies which recorded and retained muscle mass strength, that there was an average of 25% residual advantage for transgender women and with 12 months of treatment compared to a group of females. After 12 months of testosterone suppression, transgender women retained 48% stronger and 35% larger quadriceps mass compared with the control population of females. And I will continue this in the next public comment section. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? No? Okay, then Is there any public comment here in Las Vegas? Seeing none. SCS, is there any public comment on the phone?
There are no callers at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, moving to agenda item 2, the minutes. The committee will consider approval of the September 4th, 2025 meeting minutes. Go ahead, ma'am.
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion?
Second.
Go ahead, second. Was that you, Arascata? I mean, Regent Arascata, Vice Chair. It was him?
It was Boylan. Regent Boylan.
Outstanding. All right, so we have a second also. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The bill, it passes, I'm saying the bill. The minutes pass. Did I do it right, Council? You're the man, thank you. All right, so we changed, come back. Item 3, replaced it with item 8. Linda King, our Senior Associate General Counsel, will be talking on this, but before I let you go ahead and talk about this, Ms. King, I had a few things to say myself. I'll take the chair's privilege to make a few statements here. Everyone, no matter who they are welcome in all NSHE institutions. And when I say that, no matter who they are, I'm not going to go into detailing one by one because I'll miss somebody. And then we'll have demonstrations again. And I, for one, will be the first one to stand by you. As you know, I'm not afraid to do so. If you have issues of any kind, I will be the first one to stand by you. To be proactive, I spearheaded this controversial issue at our Regents meeting in March 2024, based on my concern for female athletes, their safety and security, and of course, to remove unfairness to our female athletes. I believe this issue must be talked about and debated so everyone knows what our policy is at NSHE. Actually, right now, we don't have a policy since the changes from the NCAA and President Trump's presidential, executive order. So President Trump made this Executive Order 14201 titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, intended to ban transgender athletes who were assigned male at birth from participating in girls' and women's sports. Its key aspects are federal funding, Title IX interpretation. Council Jimmy and I had a discussion about Title IX. Do you remember that? You don't forget anything. Why am I asking to remember that? And it was how come we have, when we have Title IX, how are transgender males allowed to, I use the right term also, transgender, allowed to be in women's sports. The NCAA policy change, which I'm sure Ms. King will tell us more about, and the announcements that were made by the NCAA. In fact, the President's executive order goes so far. One of them is immigration policy. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services updated its policy to consider a male athlete competing against women as a negative factor in visa determinations, aiming to prevent foreign male athletes from entering the U.S. to compete in women's sports based on changed gender identity. I know most of you didn't know about that. I'm glad to share it with you. You're welcome. Ms. King, please, go ahead.
Linda King for the record. So Chair Boylan, you missed it. You missed the April 24th special meeting of the board where I talked about this topic. And you should go back and watch the tape because it was pretty good. And there was a very robust discussion. But I've been tasked with addressing 4 items today that are on the agenda. I'll tell you the spoiler alert is that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing 2 cases on January 13th and should have a ruling probably late May, June. that will decide these issues. And at that point, this board will then have more instruction on how it could go forward if it, at that time, wishes to create some type of new policy or different policy. But you did mention the NCAA policy, and that came out in February of this year, and I talked about that in April. It's a policy that prohibits transgender females from participating on female teams in collegiate athletics. However, it is a rule, it's a policy, and on its face, it acknowledges that institutions are bound by their state and local rules. And we've got a conflict in Nevada because the Nevada Constitution, at Article 24, provides for equality of rights. And in that equality of rights provision, it identifies gender identity and expression as protected characteristics. So back in April, when I had some questions from Regents, I informed them that unfortunately right now, I could not advise and allow the board to go forward with a policy that would be in conflict with the state constitution. We don't know what the rulings will be out of the Supreme Court, but they are going to be looking at 2 state laws, one in Idaho and one in West Virginia, that are categorical bans on transgender female participation, so that's males who are male at birth, preventing, it's a categorical ban, they cannot participate in any way in female sports teams or girls' sports teams. In one case, the court will be looking at a Title IX, does that law violate Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution? And in the Idaho case, it just presents the equal protection argument. So at that time, we'll have rulings from the Supreme Court that address both of those issues. You mentioned the executive orders. You're correct. That's what those executive orders state. Executive orders are not laws, but they are direction to the federal government, and that's how you see another federal agency changing its policies to reflect what the executive order states. But our state constitution would take precedent over an executive order. Title IX right now, there's a division among the courts. Title IX itself does not define sex, and that's where a lot of this problem has arisen. So the Supreme Court's going to be looking at the fact that there's not a definition of sex in Title IX. However, they're going to look at the legislative history. And I don't know where they're going to side with this, but we do know that Title IX's origins are, it came about because women did not have opportunities to participate in sports. It's, of course, developed over time into many different machinations of regulations, as you've seen, and I've talked to the board about those regulations going into effect. We had the pre-20, we had the 20, we had the 24, and now we're back to the 20. So we're still in the same spot we were when I talked about this in April. I know that we've got the Supreme Court cases coming up. I know that you are looking at this issue from a safety perspective in this committee. I think that this is an issue that properly belongs in the Title IX Audit and Compliance Committee so that there can be conversations not just about the physical safety of women in sports, but the safety of women in sports clubs and programs and protections against sexual harassment and sexual abuse, which we know is a problem nationwide as well.
Thank you. I hear. Come on. Thank you. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I really do. It's good to know that we keep it going, that we're talking. That's why it's in this committee for their safety. It's also going to be, I hope, in Title IX and in the full board when we decide what the policy is going to be. I know about your presentation. I've been told about it in April, and I wasn't in town. I'd been gone for a few months. So you did a good job then, I've been told. So just one question. So the federal funding. Mm-hmm. The order threatens to revoke federal funding. Where is our funding guy? There he is, Mr. Vatone, or maybe the chancellor. So we're going to defy the president and say we don't care what you say. Sorry, I don't mean it in those words, but don't give us federal funding. Stop it. We don't care. We've got enough money.
Yeah, one of the topics.
Is that what we're going to do? Yeah.
One of the topics on the agenda item is the regulatory landscape and regulatory guidance. So the executive orders are not regulatory guidance. The Title IX regulations, the actual rulemaking in the Federal Register are the regulatory guidance. However, as we know and we've talked about in different areas for example, with respect to Title VI, we do look at what the federal government and what the enforcement agencies are doing to guide our actions. So we can look at those executive orders. We can look at the fact that the federal government has, the Department of Education's OCR has joined forces with Department of Justice, and there is a special investigations unit combining those two agencies. They're staffed by whomever's left, I suppose, with a job in the federal administration. They're targeting institutions where there have been transgender athletes. So when there is an investigation, we've seen it at Penn State, and there's a few others, they're initiating those investigations where they believe a problem has existed. We don't have that circumstance here in Nevada, so there's no need for us to take any action. There's no need for us to do anything at this time, particularly why we have a legal conflict if we were to take any type of policy action. Of course, we'd have to reassess that if there was an investigation, if we received notice of an investigation at one of our institutions. But right now, where the executive order is threatening federal funds, they're opening investigations into institutions where transgender athletes have competed. We know that in Pennsylvania, there were, records of individuals, their record of their relays in their swim matches. I'm not sure what the right word is for swimming, sorry, I don't mean to offend any athletes. The meet, it's a meet, a swim meet.
Yeah.
Those records were restored so that the biologically female athletes would hold those records and not the transgender athlete. And those institutions have to balance, do I want to litigate this matter that's being litigated and is going to be heard? Does the institution want to spend the funds on that? Or do they want to enter into a resolution? And those oftentimes are business decisions.
Good, thank you. So you're saying it was 8 months ago that you made that presentation, nothing's been done, we have the same policy as before, we haven't changed anything. So when someone asks us, what's your policy about transgender males, females, whatever, in sports, we say it's the same. They're allowed to play against our, female athletes. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
Because it's been
I
8
can
months
say-
and the board hasn't
Yeah.
done anything. That's why I'm pushing it, so that we keep it up, keep it alive, and we have answers.
Absolutely, and the legal advice is that you shouldn't do anything, and you shouldn't do anything until the Supreme Court rules. I think that if you talk to our institutions, the institutions say we are in compliance, and that was my number one point when I spoke in April. No one is out of compliance. None of our institutions are doing anything that's illegal. None of our institutions are doing anything that's outside of the NCAA rule. I think that if you invited those individuals to come and talk to you, that you would hear the same thing from them. All of these circumstances are very fact-dependent. I think that the institutions know who they're recruiting for their sports teams, and if there was an instance where they were recruiting a transgender athlete or they were going to have a transgender athlete playing for them, we'd be having a different conversation. But at this time, to my knowledge, and I know I'll get fact-checked on this, but to my knowledge, no Nevada institution has a transgender athlete playing right now.
It's not about just the Nevada institutions having transgender athletes, it's about our female athletes playing against teams that might have transgender athletes, to keep them safe.
Right.
And we haven't been able to keep them safe where that's concerned. So we just wait till the Supreme Court decides, and maybe they move it on another year, so we just keep going, same old, no changes.
I don't think so. I don't think that it's same old, because we were looking at a different situation when we were talking last fall about San Jose State and their volleyball team, and they
Yes.
had a transgender athlete playing. And there was the NCAA had not changed their policy. So our institutions.
Oh, wait a minute, sorry. The NC has changed their policy. They
Yes,
said,
but it hadn't last fall. That happened in February of this year.
yeah, so now we're not.
So at this time, those other institutions would be following that law, following the NCAA rule as well.
So we are not
but it-
following the old NCAA, we're following what the NCAA is
Correct, the new
saying,
rule.
the new
Yes.
stuff.
Everyone right now playing NCAA collegiate athletics
That's
should be
us also,
following that
we are
rule.
part of it.
Correct,
So
correct.
then we are going to say there are no transgenders and female, and we cannot allow them, because by your own words.
Until there
you-
is an instance where we have a fact that changes.
No,
Right
that
now,
doesn't,
that's the
it's not in
case.
the NCAA rules saying that we wait till an incident. It
No,
says
the
it's banned.
it says it's banned. One, it's a rule.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a rule that says that that it defers to state law, and we would have to defer to our state constitution. So the rule has a caveat. The rule has some fine print. So it is a ban, but it has fine print. It's a rule, it's not a law. So we've got a conflict between a rule that's going to take a lower level as opposed to our state constitution.
Of course.
But you did mention two different things. We have the instance of what do we do with athletes that are at our institutions, and how do we comply? How do we find the balance of fairness and safety and inclusion under the rule and under our constitution, versus when our institutions have teams that are going to play another team and they know that there may be a transgender athlete playing at that other team. Right now, that may or may not, that other team might be violating the NCAA policy. They may not know. There have been instances since the new rule that have come out where someone participated in a competition, and I don't know what type of sanctions happened. It was a rowing team. I don't know what the sanctions were, but they had violated the rule, and that was in New York. New York also has a state law that protects transgender identity and expression. So I don't know how that played out. But I think the main thing to remember is it's not that you're being inactive. It's not that you're not taking action. The legal advice right now is we don't have a set of circumstances that calls for this board to entertain any type of policy. And when we have rulings out of the Supreme Court, hopefully we'll have more information so that this board wants to bring forth a policy, you all can have the discussion and debate that.
So we shouldn't be proactive, we should be reactive, is what you're telling me. I know you're using nice English terms, not legalese too much, but you're saying we don't do anything so we'll be reactive. That's the advice from council to us. After something happens.
No, I don't think
Did you have
that's-
something to say? Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. So go ahead. So we have to be reactive, not proactive.
No, I don't think that's a fair characterization of what I've said.
No, that's what it seems to me. That
I think we
after
are
something
active.
happens, sorry?
I think our institutions are active, and I think our institutions are actively complying with the NCAA rule. Until a circumstance presents itself where we have to change, that's not being inactive. We don't need to do anything at this point, and the legal advice is that you don't approve a policy that would conflict with the state constitution.
Thank you, ma'am. Regent Brown, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Regent Brown for the record. I appreciate Ms. King's explanation. What I wanted to kind of put into context here is that what I hear her saying and what I know to be true is that the 13 of us were elected by the people and we swore an oath to the Constitution. The Constitution currently sits as this is protected. We are completely in compliance. For us to do anything other than what is based in our Constitution would actually be going against our oath that we took sitting here. So I think that's the piece that unfortunately is missing in this conversation, right? There is nothing more for us to do, given that we are bound by the Nevada Constitution.
Thank you, Regent Brown, and that's why this is all about discussing. This is debating and discussing. In higher education, everything is on the table. And that's why I wanted this to be brought up, so people understand we are, according to Regent Brown and you, following the Constitution, so we are safe no matter what happens. We have no problem until it happens. That's awesome.
Do you mind?
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Regent
Go
Brown,
ahead.
for the record.
Yes.
I just want to put that into context because
Yes, I know.
you're mischaracterizing that it's a reaction, not a proactive. To be proactive in any other context would actually be breaking our state constitution, right? So it's not. I just want to change the framework that you were asking Ms. King about, because it's not actually a correct context in that. I want to have this conversation. I'm glad that we can sit here and have this, but I also just want to put that into context, right? If I was to be reactive towards something, it is because we did not live up to our duty, and then we have to, catch up, which there's plenty of examples of that. This is not one of those.
Thank you, Regent Brown. Any other regents on the committee? And then any other regents off the committee like to say something, discuss something about this topic? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. So any of the presidents or the chancellor would you like to say something about this topic? You have nothing to say. Outstanding. So we'll just leave it as is. Thank you, Council. Appreciate it, and we're going to miss you.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, take care, be safe. Okay. Got to keep this on. We move on to item number 4. Well, actually 3 now became 4. Crisis and Emergency Management Plans, UNLV and UNR. Before we get into it, I'm just going to make a few statements, which was number 4. Council Jimmy and myself, Council Martinez, sorry, and myself have discussed this, and I think we have the 2 chiefs here. One must be online, right? Who are going to talk about this, because I can see our chief there, he's smiling. I love this guy. So go ahead, Mr. Council. I had something to say, but I'll remember it when you're speaking.
Chair Boylan, sorry to jump in here.
Yes,
Chris
sir.
Nielsen, your council, just procedurally, I know we just finished up with number 8. You took that out of order, which was perfectly appropriate. But right now, are we on number 3, which is the crisis and emergency plans?
Yes, which was
Or are we on
originally.
number 4? They're related, but they're separate items. So we're on number 3 right now?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
just to clarify. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. How's everyone down in southern Nevada?
Oh, he's there. All right. Doing
He
good?
is here. Arnold, you can sit down. I got this.
Thank you, Eric. Nicely done.
Morning. My name is Eric James. I'm the Chief of Police of the University Police Department, Northern Command. I will be introducing Dr. Amanda Wins and Dr. Louise Hardy, who will be covering the emergency management plans for both southern and northern Nevada. So with that, Dr. Wins.
One second. Not Chair, Chief, up in the north, did you say she's covering both the southern and the northern emergency plan?
Dr. Wins will be covering northern Nevada, and Dr. Louise Hardy will be covering southern Nevada.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Amanda Wins. I am the Organizational Resilience Manager for Northern Command, and that covers UNR, TMCC, DRI, and WNC. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. I just want to take a moment this morning to discuss what comprehensive emergency management actually covers. It's a term that a lot of us use and throw around, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page before we discuss the agenda item of what our actual plans are that are in place currently. So comprehensive emergency management covers the time periods before, during, and after any sort of emergency or disaster that may impact any of our institutions. Currently in the state of Nevada, we have to plan for 13 identified major threats. That types of threats include man-made, naturally occurring, as well as technological incidents such as a failure of infrastructure. Currently, we focus a lot on all of our man-made threats, such as active assailants, but naturally occurring incidents happen a lot more often than man-made threats do occur. 85% of the losses from crises in the United States actually come from flooding damage. Technological disasters also cover incidents such as cybersecurity, which Nevada has a reasonably high risk of, as demonstrated in the news, just based on the attack on the state of Nevada over the past month. Comprehensive emergency management also covers all phases of emergency management. There's five phases, right? Everyone loves response. That is the super exciting part, where something is happening and we are actively doing something to stabilize the situation. However, mitigation and planning, those phases that happen before the incident, is really where the magic happens. That's where we're going to save money. That's where we're going to reduce that human impact. The National Institute of Building and Sciences does a study every year. And right now, $1 spent in mitigation and planning protection actually saves approximately $11 in expense. So all the infrastructure enhancements that we're making through this security committee, such as those active assailant locks, cameras, et cetera, that help us to prevent and reduce that response, is actually a tremendous return on investment. Recovery is one of those phases that's talked about the least. We actually start that during the incident, and then it carries on after the incident for extensive amounts of time. In 2005, there were tremendous amounts of flooding in Washoe County. The county is actually, we're still doing paperwork on that incident. So recovery is definitely the longest, the most extensive phase of emergency management. And that's how we make the community whole again, both operationally and fiscally. So we can have the absolute best plans that we have on paper, but we really need the leadership buy-in and all of our stakeholders to help us train, exercise, and then continually improve our plans. We have to test all of our integration with our local, state, tribal, and federal resources, as well as adapt our plans to the changing threats, as well as any new capabilities that we may have. Some examples of that in the North, we just worked with our local level 1 trauma hospital to help them evaluate their continuity exercises to make sure they can operate in any conditional environment, as well as working with our partners at the Reno Tahoe Airport to do their full-scale exercise that's required to still have them have commercial passengers. And tabletop exercises with all of our senior leadership at UNR, TMCC, DRI, and WNC each semester. Could I have the next slide, please? Currently, the agenda item specifically mentioned UNR and UNLV, but the part that I am specifically briefing is the Organizational Resilience Plan, which covers not only UNR, but TMCC, DRI, and WNC as well. Our plan does focus on that comprehensive emergency management theory. So we cover all hazards, as well as all of our 5 phases and continual improvement. Plans broken down into sections. So our introduction really speaks of what are we doing? What is the scope of our plans? Who does this plan cover? Who are our stakeholders? Who is our partnership? Section 2 is our concept of operations, of how do we actually perform the duties of comprehensive emergency management? Who are we working with? What is our critical infrastructure? And how is that all arranged throughout all of our institutional campuses, creating priorities for each of our institutions? Section 3 covers how do we conduct emergency operations? It goes into making sure we're following federal guidelines, making sure we're integrated with all of our states' plans, as well as our local political jurisdictions. A good plan always is in constant development and discusses how we're going to maintain the plan to make sure it's current in Section 4. 5 really goes into more of our EOC position guides. So that is going to be what is everybody's roles and responsibilities who's assigned to an emergency or disaster position through our incident management team or through subject matter expertise. What are they actually going to be doing, focusing, and it's in a really good checklist format. So especially if you're stressed or under pressure, there's a complete guideline to follow and really leads you through that process. This is also especially helpful in case, as all good disasters and emergencies, they always happen at the worst time. And in case the person that would usually fulfill those roles aren't available, our position guides really allows anybody to step into that position and follow the roles and responsibilities to ensure that no matter who might be physically there, that we have all of our responsibilities during an emergency or disaster covered. The hazard-specific guidelines really go into each type of threat. It discusses what would be the priorities, what's the most appropriate response, and how we are going to deal with those, what capabilities and resources are also there locally to be able to assist no matter what the nature of the incident is. 7 covers all the institutional appendices, and those really go into the unique capabilities, vulnerabilities of each of our institutions, as well as all of our different remote campuses. Supplementally, we have the Washoe Regional Emergency Management Plan, and we are a signatory to that plan, and that covers Washoe County, City of Reno, City of Sparks, the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Reno Sparks Indian Colony, as well as the Washoe County School District. So that plan covers the main campuses with UNR, TMCC, and DRI. That plan also incorporates the regional active assailants plans as well as mass casualty plans, which would take all of the capabilities that our region has to respond to that type of incident. So we're very closely integrated and with those plans, as well as train with all of our local partners on those, as we know it would take the entire community to respond to any sort of a crisis on that scale of disaster. We also work very closely with Quad counties to cover all of the local plans for WNC. Additional supplemental plans include continuity of operations plans. And continuity of operations plans really focus on those missions that have to continue no matter what the operating environment is. We've been working closely with all of the institutions' marketing and communication resources to help update all of their crisis communication plans. In fact, yesterday we were up at the Regional Emergency Operations Center with our northern institutions' public information officers, as well as Washoe County, really working through how we would perform a joint information center. We've also worked with some of our most vulnerable population, which is our child care development centers. Last week, we were up at TMCC and DRI working on an alternative care site plan. And that's important not only for the child care accreditation, but again, some of having the minors on campus are some of our most vulnerable populations. So we want to make sure that we have plans in place for their protection and recovery. Over the past year, we've also worked on really filling out our post-earthquake damage assessment. We've done drills with all of the northern institutions with their damage assessment teams, which are primarily made up of our facilities teams, on how would we respond and prioritize our infrastructure challenges in a post-earthquake environment. We also attend all of the integrated training preparedness workshops at the state and local level. So that means we tie into all of our regional trainings as well as larger full-scale exercises so that we're focusing on the same priorities that all of our local response teams are working on. This coming year, we're really looking on working on getting our template out that we've developed for emergency action plans for facilities and our standalone campuses. We're going to start focusing really on our high population density areas, and those are for the institutional staff in those areas to know and have a plan in place to focus again on all hazards, emergencies and disasters such as medical emergencies, fires, as well as an active assailant type situation. So that's our strategic plan for this coming year. With that, I would like to introduce Dr. Louise Hardy to speak about the emergency management planning for Southern Command. Thank you.
Just 1 second. Welcome, Dr. Louise Hardy. For you, ma'am, up in the north, I had a couple of questions. Can you tell us the difference between disaster resilience and emergency management?
Sure.
Because that's what you
So
are.
disaster-
Your background is disaster resilience, right? Not emergency management.
I have extensive levels of experience with both disaster resilience as well as emergency management. So emergency management is the system of how to plan, prepare, mitigate, respond, and recover from emergency and disasters. Disaster resilience focuses more on the ability of an organization to adapt and change to overcome any sort of impacts from a crisis situation.
Thank you. A few more questions, and they'll also apply to you, so you might as well be ready while you're here. So do you have a dedicated office space that is the emergency management office that deals with all of this? And I ask you this because I know the 5 things. I love everything in 5s. I always believe, and I thank you very much for having one slide, because I usually say 5 slides, 5 points on each slide, bada bang. You can't do more than 25 minutes, otherwise you kill me. But thank you for that. So there's prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. We all know that. My background is emergency management also. That's why I asked you this question, and I found it strange that you're from the business resiliency and disaster, and you're in, but welcome. That's really nice. I appreciate it. So you have a specific office that does the training, response, activation of the emergency teams. Do you have ERTs, emergency response teams? Do you have somebody?
Yes, we do.
Who are they?
My office specifically is myself as the manager. I have a organizational resilience coordinator, Matt Williams, who specifically focuses on all of our planning operations. And then Jennifer Delaney is our training and exercise coordinator. We are actually the only multi-person department in the state that all 3 of us, we have 100% accreditation as emergency managers within the state of Nevada. Additionally, I'm also internationally certified. Our office is co-located inside of police services because we work extremely closely with them on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate it if both of you and even the chiefs could give us a organizational chart the next time so it makes more sense who's answering. I'm big on chain of command, so I'd like to know who you are answering. So you answer to the chief up in the north. He's your boss. Is that?
I answer to the Vice President of Admin and Finance, Andrew Klinger.
Oh, to Klinger.
Is my organizational structure. Yes, we're embedded with police services, but our chain of command is directly to the VPAF, just as the Northern Command police chief is.
Okay, thank you. So you answer directly to Klinger. So, ma'am, before you do your presentation, since I'm asking her the question, same for you, who do you answer to directly? And next time, please give us or send me an organizational chart so I know this chain of command, who's answering to who. And same thing, do you have any ERTs? What's your situation here in the South?
So I'm Louise Hardy, Assistant Director of Threat Assessment and Emergency Management, falling under the University Police Department. I report directly to Chief Vasquez. Underneath me, we have 2 Threat Assessment and Emergency Management coordinators, as well as my admin assistant / grants coordinator. She does handle the grants for all of University Police Department Southern Command. So my team is the 2 Threat Assessment and Emergency Management coordinators. One has been with me for a little less than 6 months, and the other one about a year. As you know, we are a little bit newer to the consolidation and the growing of threat assessment and emergency management. The threat assessment is new to our division, and we're also growing that program as we build the emergency management program.
Did you say threat assessment is new to your division?
Yes. So when I joined about 2.5 years ago, we do have behavioral intervention teams at the institutions, but we're growing it a little bit more to include the police component and analyzing on the CIVRA scale to determine basically the pathway to violence. It's a little bit different from what they were doing previously.
I understand that scale, and I appreciate what you're saying. So do you have an ERT team? Who do you activate right away when something happens? Like, say, the shooting happened at UNLV. Who was active? You were not here.
So
Yes, sir.
the threat assessment and emergency management coordinators, of course, we do have emergency response teams or incident management teams that are activated. We have a robust team that we have actually grown. I'll get a little bit more into that as well. Before it was basically the policy group, so the executive team levels, and we've really grown it into, the finance liaisons, a people care branch to really customize the response to ensure that everybody is taken care of, everybody's needs, and we're addressing all issues and the larger picture of things. So
Okay.
they are all activated.
Thank you, thank you. And you do know the concept of an incident commander and, the emergency management, or, both of you do know that, I'm sure of that. And do you have anybody who is trained, or when was the last training you gave, both of you, North and South, for a phone threat or a bomb threat, a text threat, suspicious package? Have you done any of those trainings or done any tabletop exercises? Specifically, we talk about active shooter and shooters at a different time, but has any of this been done, North and South?
Absolutely. So for the Southern Command in February, we did have a tabletop exercise. We actually we were awarded FEMA to come in to assist us to develop a tabletop exercise to provide that external feedback to better improve our plans. We did do a bomb threat at that time. CSN, UNLV, and NSU all participated. It was an all-day tabletop exercise, and after action was completed, and we're improving plans based on that after action.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you about the AAR and who did anything. So it was just a tabletop exercise. It was not an actual exercise with people involved like we had the Great Nevada Shakeout. It wasn't something like that, right?
So we did actually have external partners. So we had local hospitals come, we had Clark County Emergency Management, Henderson Emergency Management. They all participated.
But it was a tabletop, yeah.
Yes, just a tabletop exercise.
That's what I meant. We need an actual exercise sometime. And from the North, ma'am, when was the last time you did that? I heard you say earlier you did a tabletop exercise lately.
Thank you. Yes, our next tabletop exercises are actually coming up in the first week of December for all of our institutions for the fall semester. The last
Very
time
nice.
that we did specifically a bomb threat was last fall. We did that with all the senior leadership, the incident management teams from all of the institutions, and that was focused on working on our new and improved bomb check list, to go over that, as well as making sure that all of our plans were adequate to respond. Chief James would be more appropriate to talk about the training the police services has been doing. They've done 4 trainings in the past month with different departments, specifically on their response to receiving any sort of bomb threat, whether that is through mail, email, phone-based, social media-based. Our response procedures cover all of those ways to receive the threat, as well as we have had some real-world situations in the past year that we have utilized all of those plans to incorporate into an appropriate response for the level of the severity of situation.
Oh, thank you. So you're going to do it in December at the end of the semester. Why aren't these things done in the beginning of the semester so the students have an idea of what's going to happen? Students, staff, stakeholders, anybody that comes there. Doesn't really help when it's the end of the semester, but I thank you. I'm glad you're doing that, but you haven't had one this semester.
No, so our next one, we actually just, they're going to be in January, February, and March for each institution. We are also doing smaller group exercises, so it could be, we just did one at CSN for the policy group just 2 weeks ago on a power outage. So we are building throughout the year with the smaller groups and then one large tabletop exercise annually.
That's just one. Okay, I get it. Thank you. Now, I had a couple of other questions, and I'm really interested in how you'd answer directly to Chief Vasquez. The lady in the north answers to Klinger, who is not the chief, but I guess the chief answers to Klinger and so on. That's interesting to me. We've got to have the same setup in NSHE all over, because we talked about this, about different classes and things. Okay, just one second. We've talked about having the same, processes. but it's just something small, but I'll stop here for a second and let Regent Brown go ahead. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Regent Brown, for the record. I just wanted to ask, because I have similar questions.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
What I wanted to ask was if we could hear the Southern Command report.
Yeah.
So then we could take both with the context.
Oh, we will hear the report. Yes, I'm not stopping her from giving, she will give us the report. But I see what you're saying. And then you want to ask the questions after
Yeah, because
that.
I have some questions
Okay.
too, but
Good.
I want to see if she covers them.
Oh, okay. Even if she does, you can ask them. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. Regent Goycochea here. Could I, just a quick question before you go south?
Go ahead, Regent Gokochev, please.
Yes, thank you. Just listening to the presentation from the north, something that, I have to ask, I don't see or hear where GBC is included in any of this. Are they under the Southern Command?
Who's going to answer that?
Dr. Amanda Wins. For the record, I'm the manager of organizational resilience for the Northern Command. GBC has,
Yes, now,
due to our difference in structure, whereas Southern Command emergency management is integrated into police services, and therefore, when the consolidation happened, all of the Southern commands were provided with those services. In the North, I am not part of the consolidation, so therefore I have separate MOUs with each of the Northern institutions, and GBC has decided not to renew their MOU as of the 1st of December.
That's interesting. Great question, Regent Gokochea. Anything else? That's really a good...
well, maybe I need to talk to Chief James or find out. Yeah, because there's, we've got 4 campuses at GBC from perimeter to the north. And again, it almost sounds like maybe we're lagging behind someplace. So thank you, and I'll get off the horn and let you guys proceed.
Thanks, Regent Gokochea. I don't know, Chancellor, would you let us know how that structure is set up and why it is the way it is? Go ahead. Someone else? Who's it? I know. I was going to come back to. I saw her there. President, go ahead. GBC President.
Good morning. For the record, Amber Dinelli, President of Great Basin College. I'm happy to address this. We did have an MOU with UNR. We took that under consideration. It's a significant amount of money for our institution. And we made the choice to hire internally. We have a safety and health officer that works for us. Some of the training that we received from UNR was repetitive. And so we just did not feel like we were getting kind of our money's worth of what we were paying for. And so at the end of the day, we run all that internally. We do all the training internally. We hired somebody who's perfectly capable to do all of our after action reports or anything that we have. And so far that is working out just fine. But we did have that conversation. We are also represented more efficiently, I believe, with our new person that we have. His name is Jeff Hills. And so for us, this just works better.
Thank you, President Amber. That is very interesting to me. I find that really interesting. I won't say awkward and strange, but I'd really like to find out, Chancellor, if you could address this sometime, find out what's happening. Why do we have such a strange, something different in the north, something different in the south? We have one system. It is NSHE. We represent NSHE, not the north or the south. So this is, and I'm glad we're talking about these things. I'm sure more will come out, because we're going to be talking about the chain of command in the next one of the next items or so we can address this there also. But thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Any questions on that? Any of the committee? Any committee members? No? All right. Thank you so much for your patience. Go ahead, ma'am.
So can we go to the next slide, please? So I thank Amanda for covering the emergency management, what it is, what components are best practices. So I wanted to touch base on the incident management teams. We have developed them a little bit more. After December 6th, we identified some areas of weakness where we needed to have additional personnel assigned to areas. Developed annexes based on the incident management teams that go into position descriptions, required training based on their position. Right now, they have been assigned 100 and 700 introduction courses essentially to incident command system. We're about a 50% completion rate across all institutions. We're getting ready to do another tabletop exercise. We did one of course, we'd already touched that one. We did do one in February of this year with FEMA. We participate with our partners. This week, we are going to be part of the MAC, which is a multi-agency center for F1. So we are working with our partners in many different ways. The Regional Integrated Preparedness Symposium is one that we just participated in. We do it annually to basically identify our threats and hazards regionally, how prepared we are, and better work with our partners in responding to incidents. Crisis communication plans. All institutions have crisis communication plans. Some of them are still in the growing phases to ensure that we have everything in place to be able to communicate effectively. Of course, the first thing to go wrong during an emergency is communication. So we want to ensure that we focus heavily on that area. ENS, the emergency notification system, we test once a semester at a minimum. We also send out ENS during emergencies, and we review that. How many people did it reach? Any issues with the systems, especially reaching social media, to ensure that everybody is getting those emergency notification. We also push it in training. We make sure people download the app, the safety apps at each institution, how to turn on the notifications, how to update to ensure that everybody has different means of receiving those emergency notifications. COOP, Continuity of Operation Plans. This was implemented in, I believe, 2021. Some institutions have been great about updating those plans. We are working with the institutions to ensure that everybody is updating them annually, and we are overseeing that. We don't write the plans for them, but we are ensuring that they are being updated annually. Next slide. So community preparedness. We believe that the community really needs to be prepared. Everybody needs to take ownership of their own safety. So we do have public documents, the emergency response plans or guides at some of the institutions. These are public-facing documents that tells people during a bomb threat or during an active assailant, run, hide, fight, a fire, what you should be doing, and it walks through each type of incident and what their actions are, emergency contact information, anywhere from police department to facilities in IT. We've conducted 12 trainings to the public, so faculty, staff, and students that are not part of the incident management team. We've done 12 since July of this year. We try to engage with them on both the threat assessment piece and the emergency preparedness, emergency management piece. We explain to them what our plans are, that there is an emergency management team that addresses the issue, because I think that a lot of people are lost on that, of like, what should I be doing? How can I help? We have a team that's trained and in place to be able to respond, but as a community member, this is what you should be doing during an emergency. And we are doing updates. Sorry. The emergency response plans. CSN was updated in 2025, beginning of this year. NSHE was updated last year. We are in the progress of including some pieces for NSU that include heat distress, so heat stroke, heat illness, and then UNLV. It's updated. We are waiting for the accessibility piece, essentially, to be able to publish that one again. Next slide. So future plans, of course, emergency response plans, emergency operation plans are always being updated and growing. Like I said, this is a newer division. We have a lot of plans to develop, hazard-specific plans. We are working on building specific response plans that identify shut-off valves and how to respond during flood events or freeze events. We are continuing with tabletop exercise. Like I said, we are doing one in the spring semester of next year and the beginning of the year, as well as smaller branch exercises. So we take the people care branch, operations, planning, logistics, finance, and work with that group specifically, because during large tabletop exercises, not everybody's really involved. It depends on the hazard or what's taking place during that tabletop exercise. So we really want those groups to understand what their role is and what they should be doing, and creating checklists and all of that to work through incidents. We are assigning additional independent study online trainings to the incident management team prior to their tabletop exercises. We're doing it in phases. Some, complete these 2 online trainings. We're doing a tabletop exercise. We expect you to complete these next 2 before our next one. So it's in a phased approach to ensure that they understand what incident command system looks like, and then putting it to practice, and then taking additional training to really help them understand the process. And that's all I have. Were there any additional questions?
No, thank you. That's great. You didn't, that old saying of death by PowerPoint. I appreciate that. That's why I always just 5, please. 5 points on each one. Talk 1 minute, no more than 25 minutes. But thank you. That was very succinct. But stay with us, and the lady in the north too, because I know Regent Brown has some questions. So I'll let her ask hers first. And if she misses any, I've got some. Ma'am. Go ahead, Regent Brown.
Regent Brown for the record. I actually, Dr. Wins in the north, her and I had an opportunity to speak a few weeks ago about the fact that our system does not, in the handbook, give guidelines on what this management should look like. And we're very lucky that both Northern Command and Southern Command have been proactive. But I would be interested to hear from you guys from, you're the operations that are actually implementing this. What guidance would be helpful from the board to make sure that we have continuity, and that, as a state, we are, staying up to date. I will just share that TMCC, when I brought this new business item up, TMCC did share their plan, and I know our institutions are being proactive, and so I'm not worried about that. But there was a conversation to say, if we were to just solidify this, if we were to just put this in and make very clear guidelines of what this was, so then we can actually hold people accountable if something doesn't happen, right? Which also helps you guys with the implementation. And so it's the onus is on us. So I'd be curious, between both of you, what would that guidance look like from us, and how could that be helpful?
Well, I know Amanda and I have actually spoken on this topic as well about standardization, ensuring that we outline what should be included in emergency operation plans, and ensuring that it looks the same between the north and the south, as well as the accountability piece, holding people accountable. If you're part of the incident management team, these are your responsibilities. Does that mean including in HR, putting that in their job description? So those are some pieces. I think just the standardization across the board would be beneficial for all of us.
Go ahead.
I guess in Regent Brown, Amanda Wins, for the record. There have been several incidents throughout the state of Nevada. The 1 October massacres, for instance. Following that, the Nevada legislature wrote new Nevada revised statutes that required all hotel resort properties to have emergency management plans. Following the Paradise Fires, PG&E in California, Nevada legislature went and now requires all public utility districts to have emergency management plans. After acts of school violence, all K through 12 schools are now, under Nevada revised statute, required to have emergency management plans. I would like to think NSHE is much more proactive, and instead of being told by the legislator what we should do, that we would take it upon ourselves to ensure that we do have robust emergency management plans in place.
Regent Brown, for the record, thank you. That's really helpful context. And it does sound like, again, I do want to echo that I know that this work is already being done on, from the two commands. But it does sound like there are guidelines already, whether we follow the resort guidelines, the K through 12 guidelines, there are things that we could adapt. So I'm assuming, I'm just thinking out loud, it probably needs to be worked on with staff in conjunction with you guys and the two commands to see what our policy actually should be so it can be introduced to the larger board.
Council, did you have something to say?
Yeah, and just Regent Brown, as you know, that may be a good a topic for new business as well.
Well, because what I'm saying is, I've already put it as new business in previous ones, but what I'm asking is, what I wanted was the guidelines, and what they're saying is the guidelines actually already exist. They wouldn't need to write them for us, and so I just was reflecting on what they were saying.
Thank you. I can figure it out with my master's degrees, how to press this. Thank you, Regent Brown. That's really good. I like your word, standardization. That was what I was looking for, why we don't have it in the north and south. Before, any other regents have any questions, whether they're on the committee or not? Did you have a question? You put your hand up? No? Okay. So I have a few questions still left, because we need to get to the bottom of everything here. This is not a item that we're going to vote on, but it's discussion. So there's plenty of time, and I hope they have lunch for us. I don't know. Okay. So I really like to know, north and south, have you had any training with active shooter training or multiple shooters or even a terrorist attack? There is big concerns with the ODNI and CIA and others that there's possibility of terrorist attacks going to be taking place in the country. It's a question of just when, not if. So are we prepared for that in any way? Or will we say, okay, we're not going to be preactive. When it happens, we'll do something. So what are we doing about that?
So Louise Hardy, for the record. For the Southern Command, UPD does take the active role of training the community. We've conducted many in-person, all-day-long trainings. Emergency management does participate in those trainings now to provide our side of response to ensure that they understand, what we're going to be doing on the back end. We're there to answer questions for them, but the police department is the one who are conducting the training for the community.
Oh, I know they're conducting training, thank you, but specifically the ones I was asking about. Any counterterrorism training for anybody saying, oh, watch out for this? Maybe this is a possibility. What's that saying the FBI or someone came up with, see something, say something? Do we do any of this training that, oh, this is a possibility and this is how we will react? And I'm sure Chief Vasquez will tell us more, and so will Chief up north. But the emergency response team, I didn't hear anything about robust communication systems, because apparently, from what I gathered, we had an issue last time at the shooting at UNLV that the communication was bad. The communication was bad, whether it was the radios, what it was. We had the same issue in 2001 in the World Trade Centers. Communication. Why? If we had problems then, why isn't it being fixed with the rest of us? So do we have any plans to train people and shelter in place? You two are well aware of that, the police are well. Have you told them where they could shelter, how they would shelter? Are we prepared for it? Any food, water supplies in certain places? The chief is coming up. Let's see what the chief has to say. Come on. Young lady, stay right there. You've been very patient. I appreciate it. But Chief, please go ahead.
Good morning, Chief Boylan, Vice Chair and members of the committee and Regents. Arnold Vasquez, Chief of Police, University Police Department, Southern Command, for the record.
Just gave me a compliment. You said Chief Boylan. I appreciate that.
Did I say Chief?
Yes.
Okay.
You're my favorite chief. Okay.
We might have just been promoted.
Okay.
With that, I think what I understand your question to be is it for primarily outside in the campus community, this type of a training? You talk about shelter in place, or is it more for the response?
It's for all the institutions and all our different colleges and universities. Are we prepared for that? Hopefully, outside the community, I know they're not prepared. 99% they're not prepared. There's been a study done that I know of. They're not, but I'm talking about our NSHE institutions. Each institution, are we prepared for something like that? Are we going to say, hey, guys, after the event, please meet in so-and-so place? We don't have that, do we?
Understood. So in terms of maybe I misspoke. When I said community, I meant the campus community.
Okay, sorry.
Not the larger community. That's a different animal all in of
Yes,
itself. So what I would say is that I'm confident that we have rolled out a number of trainings as it relates to active, I don't want to just say active assailant, but just an active man-made event, because it could be a number of things. It could be, we just had one recently at NSU where there was a car chase that ended with some suspects fleeing the car, and they presented a threat to our campus community. So in that particular incident, we actually were able to communicate effectively, get the information out, and were able to shelter in place for a time being so we could secure the area. So it's not necessarily just an active assailant. What we do teach on the active assailant is a run, hide, fight method. And in many cases, I just like to describe it as taking the approach of letting your survival instincts kick in, because that's just the truth of it. So to answer your question in terms of the campus communities, I think that at least from the Southern Command perspective, and I know that Chief James has done, and his team have done an exceptional job as well, educating and making that platform and that training as available and accessible to all campus as much as possible. I will talk a little bit later, but I did speak as well back in the September meeting about the number of presentations that we have actually rolled out this year, which has doubled. I'm very, very proud of that, and I think that that's just our way of reaching more and more people. Now, from the response side of it, we do have a very robust training response for all of our officers, and not only our officers at UPD, Southern Command, but also throughout the Valley. So we do, it's called MACTAC. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's a
Brown mentioned it last time. Yeah.
Right, it stands for Multi-Assault Counterterrorism Actions and Capabilities. So essentially, that's just a way for all of our law enforcement officers, regardless of what uniform or badge you wear, when we do show up to an active event such as that, we deploy in a very strategic, calculated manner, and we approach that particular incident consistently across the board. So we know what the right hand and the left hand are doing in that particular incident.
Outstanding. See, that, you said it, the left hand and the right hand thing, because that's what happens. And I appreciate what you told us. And I know you've been doing this training, and what happened at NSU, you guys were, right there, and it helped everybody. A few more things. We know this is all about, saving lives and protecting property, preserving the mission continuity. The young lady up in the north with the resilience factor, she's good at that. And you have an all hazards approach. That's why I was specifying bomb attacks or terrorist attacks or anything like that could happen. Again, in my notes here is an organizational chart. I'd love an organization chart from both. And I'd really like to know why the organization is different in the South and is different in the North. We've already seen two things that are totally different. One college in the North doesn't have our police support. I forgot to ask the President, and I'll ask the Chief that, when they need police support, who shows up? Okay, but that'll come because we've got something coming up. Tabletop exercises, we've done all of that. Communication systems. One last thing, I had a few notes here. What about our vulnerable, and maybe I'll ask the young lady because this is more for her emergency management kind of stuff, but Chief, I love seeing you there, and you promoted me to Chief. I'm always grateful to you. I appreciate that. Vulnerable communities, do we do anything about that, like for the handicapped? Because I don't ever hear anything about how do we help the handicapped. We are judged by how we treat our most vulnerable, weakest people in the community who need us most. And I hope I use the right terms, disabled, right? Is that the right term? Does anyone know? Council? It's not handicapped anymore, right? It's disabled.
Regent Boyle, I believe your question is how are the disabled individuals
Actually, it's Regent Boylan. It's people with disabilities.
Oh, hang on, Chief. Regent Arascata, Council was telling us something. I'll come right back to you.
I apologize, these are a little sensitive. Chris Nielsen for the record. I believe, Regent Boylan, your question was in the context of the emergency plans or or individuals who are disabled, are there special considerations for that class of individuals or something to that effect?
Thank you. That's exactly what I mean. Regent Arascata, what were you saying? Please tell me.
The term you just mentioned is extremely degrading towards people with disabilities.
Okay.
Please, if you're going to use that term, focus on people with disabilities.
Disabilities,
focus on
it
the
is.
person.
All right. Thank you.
People with disabilities.
Thank you. I appreciate that because most of us here were looking at each other at what is the term. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Ma'am, go right ahead.
So we do have plans in place. Even for emergency notifications, we take into consideration those who are hearing or vision impaired. So we have multiple methods to be able to communicate with them as to what is going on. We have text messages, pop-ups that come across screens. They go to phones, office phones. They are on billboard or the TV digital screens throughout campus. So there's multiple methods to be able to communicate with them that there is an emergency. When it comes to actual plans, we do have plans in place. All our public-facing documents do have information for those who do have physical disabilities of where to stage, how others can help, and ensuring that they're asking, are you okay with me helping? How can I help you in this situation? Basically we have identified staging areas in buildings to be able to say, if you cannot leave the building, sit here, either have someone tell emergency first responders where you are, or you can call yourself to identify where you are, and they will assist with evacuation. So we do have plans in place. We work closely with disability resource centers to be able to develop individualized plans for people as well. So they know the safety they have. They could be finding a friend in the classroom to help during an emergency. So there are different things we have in place. We are also working with the state to do some additional trainings for our incident management teams to take those into consideration when there's an emergency. And I'm sure Amanda has more to add.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, Amanda Wins. We do have very similar plans and process procedures in place as the Southern Command just mentioned. And under the National Response Framework, which is the federal guidance of emergency management, it does use that term whole community, and that we must include all of our vulnerable populations in our plans and procedures, which we actively engage, again, with the DRC, with the State Office of Emergency Management, personnel who are specifically for functional and access needs, have them review our plans as well to ensure that we are including everybody. And that does include as well our minors on campus, some of our dual enrollment students, our child care centers. And then as with the medical school, we do have an elderly population on campus as well. And we want to make sure that we're fully inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's really good. I was going to ask you about the minors and all on campus, and you just said that. Thank you. I was talking about these staging areas. Do we have lists? Are we allowed to make lists of the buildings and individuals with disabilities that we can get to them fast at these staging areas? Do we have a person who, hey, this is your responsibility. You're going to run to this staging area, help all the disabled. Did I say it right? Disabled people with disabilities, help them get out and keep them safe. And I say this on the basis of safety, it's for everybody.
This is Louise Hardy for the record. We do not have a master list of these areas, but it also depends on the situation. All incidents are different.
Oh, yeah.
So where they find as a safe area may not be a space that's identified. Some buildings do have, safe. So I can't think of the name of it right now, but it will be on the wall. Like this is essentially a staging area for emergency personnel. But again, every situation is different. That area may not be safe at that moment. It could be a fire or active assailant. They may have to find and shelter in a different space.
Of course, no, I get you, and you make great sense there. That's why I think that it would be a nice idea to know how many people with disability we need to help in this building, in that area, in that area. I don't know, just a crazy idea of mine sometimes helps. But okay, the next one, and those would be our vulnerable communities also. How do we minimize effects of future emergencies? What's our planning? I mean, I'm sure you're being proactive, but what are we doing besides tabletop exercises? And maybe sometimes I think you both said that you do some, like, I don't know which ones you've done. Active shooter? No. Which ones have you done? Have you done any physical exercises?
We have not done like a full-scale exercise.
Yeah.
We have not, since I have been here, we have not done a full-size exercise yet.
Okay.
We're building to that point, essentially.
Okay, nice.
To ensure that everybody's trained. But that's part of the process, is training, but also educating the campus community, I think, is the top priority for us.
Yes.
Because everybody needs to know, like I said, everybody needs to own their own safety and know what to do during an emergency. So we try to conduct as many trainings as we can to the campus communities to include faculty, staff, and students. And we continue to grow our emergency plans for the future. And again, that will help us, as we do after actions for each incident, whether it's a power outage or an active assailant, we're doing these after actions to identify our weaknesses, our gaps, and setting things into plan or into motion, creating these plans to ensure that we close those gaps.
And then that helps for the future.
Absolutely.
And that's up in the north, ma'am. Is that similar, or do you have something else to share with us?
That is very similar.
Okay,
we
good.
do specific training, tabletop exercises, with our senior leadership, which requires more strategic and dealing with institutional impacts from any emergency disaster. But we do also offer training to any faculty, staff, student on individual preparedness, what you can do,
Very
make
nice.
a plan, build a kit. That is always available to any department that requests it. We also offer it standardized once a month. We also teach another more focused on the faculty staff for being, prepared, not scared, how to handle emergencies, and goes through a lot of mental modeling. University Police Services does teach active assailant multiple times a month, usually
Okay.
in each department's own space, so that they know immediately what vulnerabilities, capabilities that they have very, very locally accessible to them. We have had multiple full-scale exercises. Mainly, we've integrated into regional full-scale exercises. First off, no institution has the ability to organically respond to a major emergency or disaster by itself, such as we don't have any firefighting, we don't have emergency medical personnel.
Sure.
Usually we tie into all of our local exercises, as well as we've hosted regional full-scale exercises on our campuses as well.
Thank you. No, that I understand all that, and I see Chief James was there. He was going to say something, but I appreciate everything you young ladies. Oh, there he is. Awesome. My favorite chief.
Eric James, for
sorry.
the record, I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
As always, Amanda has covered everything in
That's right.
meticulous detail. So thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Are there any regents who have any more questions, suggestions? Remember, this is a discussion, so we can come up with something. Regent Amy? Nobody? Ma'am, thank you so much. Appreciate your patience, and thank you also, ma'am, for your patience. And please see if you can get us those organizational charts, all right? Thank you so much. All right, so the next thing now is, I thought I heard somebody clapping for me. Okay, never mind. We've done that. Oh, he's coming up. Consigliere, where are you? Which one is it? Handbook revisions?
Yeah.
Number 4.
Jimmy Martinez for the record. This is agenda item number 4.
Okay, so one second, Mr. Counsel. I saw in there that, is that the one where we talked about the revision 2? Oh, yes, this is the chain of command to the Chancellor.
Correct.
And I'm just going to say this for the record. I did not suggest that we have the Chancellor's designee. I believe that the chiefs are so important that they answer directly to the Chancellor. So I'm not sure if you misunderstood me, because I don't remember seeing that in there before. It's directly to the Chancellor is what I'm looking at.
Okay. Jimmy Martinez for the record. This item is a policy proposal being brought forward, and what this does is this proposes to amend Title IV, Chapter 1, Section 12 to change the reporting structure of the UPD heads from the presidents to the chancellor or the chancellor's designee.
Yes, sir.
The reason that I included designee is because, as we spoke, this was related to the recommendations that came from IACLEA in 2018. That's the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators. And ultimately, that recommendation in 2018 was for a commissioner model or a similar model where it would have a system level person who would then, the chiefs would report to, and then that person would report to the chancellor. Of course, with the current language, this allows those two to directly report to the chancellor, but I try to build in a little bit of flexibility because flexibility is always good in these matters, and I didn't want to take it upon myself to kind of mandatorily add 2 direct reports to the chancellor and without that flexibility. This proposal also retains current policy provisions that previously the presidents would meet and confer with each other. This requires the presidents meet and confer at least annually with the chancellor to go over the performance of the relevant UPD chief, as well as request any adjustments or modifications to the current services. It also retains the aspect of the policy that sets forth that in the event of a vacancy in the position where it was the presidents would convene, this has the chancellor convene with the presidents to identify the process to fill the position.
Yes, sir.
And as Chair Borland mentioned, this item has been requested to be brought forward for action by the chair. It was based on the 2008 IACLEA recommendations. However, I should note for the record that currently we're at the time as directed by policy, where every 5 years an external review of UPD is supposed to be done. So we're at that time where this is coming before you kind of simultaneous, where we should be asking IACLEA or another external consultant to provide that external review. That review is done at the request of the presidents. It's conducted, and then the results are brought back to the board of the Security Committee. And because we're at that time where all of this would need to be looked at again per policy, the chancellor did update his recommendation from what's in the briefing paper, and his updated recommendation is to support a discussion on consolidation, but will reserve a formal recommendation for after he's received an updated analysis and recommendation from a subject matter expert and has had an opportunity to solicit feedback from the presidents and the UPD chiefs. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And again, I'm going to stress for the record, I did not ask for the Chancellor's assignee or whatever. This was based on not having a head-on show over the 2 chiefs. I don't think we need an extra person up there to manage them or they answer to, and then that person answers to the Chancellor. The whole idea was to give them direct, protection kind of from the Chancellor directly. I mean, I know he'll support them, but I wanted them to have more power so they can do all these things in safety and security for NSHE. So I'll open up the floor for anybody. I mean, first the committee members, if they have something to say, and then anybody on the board, and then I'll open it up to the presidents or anybody else who has something to say. Anybody on the committee have any ideas, thoughts? Regent Brown, please go ahead.
Chair, I'd like.
And who was that in the north?
That was Regent Downs.
Okay.
Regent Brown for the record. Thank you, Council Martinez. I think and in talking with both chiefs and our chancellor, I think the best course of action here is to wait for the updated ICLEO report. I think, was it 2018 or 2008?
2018.
2018, okay. And I believe the policy suggests every 5 years. It's obviously been 7 years. And so this is going to be outdated. And I think a lot of what was in this current report has actually already happened in some capacity. And so, obviously, and I've said this to both of the chiefs, I can see it both ways. So I think it's best that we don't take an action on this today, wait for the updated report, and then come back and have a conversation.
Thank you, Regent Brown. Regent Downs, up north. Thank you.
Chair. So I would ask two questions. One to Mr. Martinez, if it's possible to remove that chancellor's designee from the language, or can we only work with what you've presented us? And the second to the chancellor, given your time in office, do you feel comfortable at this point adding 2 new reports to your load of people?
Well, June Martinez, for the record, I'll take the first question. And yeah, as presented, we can make that change on the record, and then it would just be part of the motion that it would be adopted with that change. But I would let the chancellor speak to whether or not the designee would be appropriate.
Chancellor, just one second, Chancellor. Before you, we had President Heavey who had a question or a comment. Go for it, sir.
Chris Heavey, interim president of UNLV for the record. I'd just like to express my opposition to this proposal. In talking with my fellow presidents, I think we feel like the reporting structure now works well. From my vantage point, this would do 2 things that are not desirable. One is it would put a additional step between us and the police chief, who we work with on a very close basis almost daily. It would also separate the spending authority from the institutions that actually pay these bills. And so from my vantage point, and I would encourage my other Southern presidents to share their own opinions, we have a very strong working relationship directly with Chief Garcia that's working well. And to have another step in between that, I don't think would ultimately serve the benefits of the campus. I think it kind of is safe to say that the campus operations are exceedingly complex, happening on a real-time basis. We can have many things happening on a given day on campus, and it's a very complicated environment. And we are working very closely with the police to try to manage that. And, I'll admit that sometimes that's a challenging thing to manage, because we'll have deans or student organizations who will invite political appointees, office holders to campus, and a lot of things that are very dynamic. And to have the close working direct relationship, I think, is the ideal circumstance. And, from my vantage point, the current situation is working well. And so I don't see this as a solving an identified problem.
Okay, President Heavey, thank you for that. And I'll give you an identified problem, and I don't see why your communications would be any different. That doesn't mean you can pick up the phone and you have to call the chancellor first and then call the chief. That's not going to change. They still answer to you. You call them directly. Yeah, we're not taking away anything from you or any of the other presidents. In fact, it's being more efficient. Nothing changes. I have no idea why everybody thinks there's going to be some change in any possible way, that they don't answer to you anymore. They still answer to you. They will keep you safe and everybody safe, no matter who they answer to. The second thing is, and it's really for the protection of the police themselves, we had one president up in the north, and I won't mention names here, you'll all know her, and she sent a police officer to a faculty member or admin's house to deliver. That's not what police are for. They couldn't refuse because she was the president. We know the problems there were between our last chief, Garcia, and our previous president. And they were directly, how do you take them on? Now they can go to the chancellor and they can say, okay, this is what's happening. They're not going to stop answering to you, sir, or to any of the other presidents. Nothing is changing. You have the same communication. We just don't want a head honcho in between anybody. The police chiefs are too important, and I feel they don't have to. One lieutenant answering to 5 captains. I've never heard of that. It's a chain of command. It should be 5 lieutenants answering to 1 captain. Now they have to worry about, I have to answer to president. Which president do I have to answer for? If there's a multiple attack in different institutions, which one is for? Oh my gosh, UNLV is more important than NSU. I better go there, otherwise president will get mad at me. No, it's still going to be the same. Nothing is changing, sir. So I just want to clear that for you and for all the presidents. We're not taking away any of your power. If this passes and goes on to the full board, we're going to vote on it like the council just said. So, no, sir, it's not. You pick up the phone and they will be right there. They're there all the time for you. We don't think of the emergency management and the police until something happens, because they've kept it all safe. And then we're like, there's the most important people. And I just say it from personal experience in my life that they are the most important people in any institution. We can all pretend that we are, but no, they're in the trenches all the time. So no, sir, it's not going to, I don't mean to bring this up to change anything. It's just structure. Hey, this is the chain of command, but they still answer to you. Anybody, does that make any sense, President Heavey?
Yes, Chris Heavey, Interim President, UNLV, for the record. Thank you for those comments. I'll just say that, with all due respect, I continue to oppose this change, and I think I would encourage you to poll the other presidents and the police chiefs directly to get their opinions on it.
Okay, that sounds really good, and if they have anything to say, they should. I've talked to the chiefs and to the chancellor, so if there's any other president has an opinion, please go for it. That's what we're here for. This is a discussion. It's really, we have to discuss these things so we can prepare. It's not written in stone. Things change all the time. But this is just a discussion for chain of command. President Klippenstein, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry. All right, there we go. Thank you very much, Chair Boylan. I appreciate it. Members of the board, for the record, I'm Stacy Klippenstein, the president of the College of Southern Nevada. I do echo some of the sentiment from my partner, Chris Heavey, in regards to still a lot of questions out there. So going to your point, Regent Boylan, I think there's a lot of questions in regarding to that reporting structure and ability to make the contact. And we already know our chiefs and the response of our teams they're going to be great, right? I mean, no matter what, right? We're going to be able to call them and so forth. I think for me, what I'm looking at is having the opportunity to work with IACLEA before. I really do trust a lot of their assessment, and I would be happy to have that opportunity as a president, along with the other presidents, along with the chiefs, to really talk about what this would mean so we understand the line of communication, the contracts, the MOUs, our involvement as the presidents, because our institutions are unique. I have 3 campuses spread among across Las Vegas, right? And I still have also a center in Mesquite. I have centers all across Las Vegas that all need certain type of assistance and help at various different times. So I would have a lot of questions in regards to what this structure would look like, our connection with the NSHE office, connection with the chancellor on items related to contractual issues, MOU issues, response issues, training issues. We're right now taking a look at updating the MOU, which I'm very happy to be able to do with Chief Vasquez and his team. So I feel like we have really, really good connection as we currently are. And so if there's an opportunity to clean some things up, absolutely. Does it need to change structure? Maybe not. IACLEA, I have a feeling, could be able to help, or another third party can really help within that. So I do honor the recommendation that's being offered by both Regent Brown as well as Jimmy Martinez in regards to this as a potential pathway. Thank you.
That's awesome. But that's what we are here for. What are your questions? You're saying you have questions on it. Go for it. This is what we're going to discuss so that we can do something correctly. Nothing's written in stone, like I said.
Sorry, Chair Boylan, Stacy Klippenstein for the record again. These are questions that would come up with the third-party review, So I don't have any specifics right now, but it could come up with the third-party review. Thank you.
I see. Now, 1 second, I know Regent Downs, you had a question, right? Up north?
Yeah, I had a question. The Chancellor was about
For
to
the
ask
Chancellor,
that question.
please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Regent Downs, for the question. Matt McNair, NSHE Chancellor, for the record. Certainly, my calendar is pretty full right now, but my primary concern is the safety of our campuses. And so, depending on what IACLEA or another third party said, if we changed the way that we work now, I would make do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Regent. Any other question? No? Downs, you good? Okay. Any other regents have questions? Sorry. They don't. So any of the other presidents? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Go right
Thank you very
ahead,
much.
please.
Amber Lopez Lassiter, Acting President, Nevada State University, for the record. I would also echo the sentiment of my colleagues. Obviously, access to the chief is top priority. As you all know, we did have a significant incident on campus last week and was able to immediately access the chief. Would also support the recommendation of the Chancellor and Regent Brown into what President Klippenstein referenced in terms of having that third-party assessment, which it sounds like we are on track to have conducted. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I'll say this. I don't see where your communications will stop and slow down the chiefs in any way. You still have a phone. I won't take your phone away from you. I don't want to. You'll always have the direct connection to them. I don't understand that. That's something, I'm a simple man. I'm like, hey, you still pick up the phone, the chief will be there or whoever. Thank you, though. Anybody else? Who? Oh, someone in the north? President Acharya. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Boylan. I echo my colleagues and the other presidents and Southern presidents here. I work with both the Northern Command and Southern Command, and both chiefs provide excellent services to our campuses. And I don't really understand why the change is necessary to make it more effective. So I'm talking from DRI's perspective, and it's working really well right now. So I don't know that adding another layer between us and the chiefs would make it any better. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, President Acharya. Again, I'll say this. Who's adding another layer? You still have your phone, talk directly to them. And with you and your DRI projects, you are very safe compared to everybody else. The federal government has made you safer than any of us. And the police still will answer you when you call them. You have everything already. I'm not sure how there's another level coming between you guys. None. I know you have that phone. We've talked on it quite a few times. Pick it up. Call the chief or call the person who's answering. They'll still be there, sir. Thank you, brother. Anybody else? Ma'am? Yes. Regent Carvalho, go for it. I forgot your name for a while.
Thank you, Chair Boylan. I was one of the regents who has felt strongly about bringing this forward. I think it's important to have this discussion. I'm a little frustrated that we were supposed to have a review every 5 years, and we've gone beyond that 5-year review. So I'm encouraged that we're having this conversation and that we will hopefully engage a third party very soon to get that review started. I will just say that IACLEA's recommendation was for consolidation, and that's why I thought it was important to bring this forward as a topic of conversation. As we heard today, standardization among our police forces and our campuses is there are opportunities there, I think, for us to explore, and I'd like to still consider that. I also think it's important that what is important to our campuses is also important to our system and our chancellor's office. And so to remove the system level from student safety is something that I think is lacking in our system right now. And that is not to say that the relationships between our police forces and our campuses is lacking in any way, but I do feel like there is a missing component there. So I really do appreciate this conversation. I've been asking for it for a while, and I hope that we continue that. I do understand that this is coming at the same time that we will be commencing a review. So while I'm not on this committee and I won't be voting on this today, I am encouraged and will continue to encourage the conversation and the 5-year review so that we can decide what is best for our system. So thank you.
That's a great point you brought up, Regent Carvalho. And just one question. You said something about the students and a level between. What was that? I missed that. What did you mean by that? I'm going to say I'm a simple man, so make it simple.
My point is that at the system level, we bring what's most important to our students and our campuses to the system level. And so I feel like this is the safety of our students and our employees is paramount.
Yes,
and so I think that to elevate this to our chancellor and the system level is appropriate.
Thank you, ma'am. I like that word, paramount. It is. Anybody else?
Regent Boylan?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Regent Arascata.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to table this item of the revisions to the Board of Regents Handbook, changing the reporting structure of the University of Police Services Southern Command, University of Police Services Northern Command, until the report provided by the ICLEA assessment.
Okay. Any second? Yes, sir.
He doesn't.
I apologize. I believe tabling versus postpone is just a refresher. Tabling would mean it would still be able to come back during this meeting. If you use the term postpone, which I believe is what you intended, Regent Arascata, would be to postpone it to a meeting after this meeting until such time the review takes place. Just a clarification there.
Thank you, Council.
Councilor, you are correct. Thank you for the clarification.
So, are you changing your?
Yes, postpone.
Postpone, okay. And Regent Brown seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Nay? Downs, I know you're not feeling well, but answer. Regent Downs.
I had said aye on postponing postponing this.
For postponing it? Okay, so what do we say? We've got
3-1-1.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
The motion passes because there's 3-1.
Yes, Chair Boylan. I believe Regent Downs voted in the affirmative, Regent Brown voted in the affirmative, and Regent Arascata voted in the affirmative. So the motion, if that's the case, the motion would carry.
The motion carries, so we'll postpone this and bring it back some other time. Sounds good. Thank you. All right. And the next one is, now this is a good one. Allocation of legislative funds for system-wide safety upgrades. And basically, this follows up with everything. We've got the chiefs today. They're the popular guys. They're going to let us know what happened with the money or is going to happen with the money that will be coming, or I just want to know where that $11 million is. If you don't need it, give it to me. Go ahead, Chief.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Boylan, Vice Chair Arascata, and members of the committee and Regents. For the record, Arnold Vasquez, Chief of Police for the University Police Department, Southern Command. For this item, both Chief Eric James and I will provide an update on the allocation of safety funds appropriated by the 83rd Legislature under AB 567. First of all, before we move forward, I'd like to, on behalf of Chief James and I, just thank all those who supported the bill and assisted along the way. It was a heavy lift, and we got it to the finish line, so thank you. Let me see, do I have my slides showed? What I'd first like to start off with is the discussion about the Public Safety Council. The Public Safety Council was established from the Chancellor's Ad Hoc Committee following December 6th at UNLV, the incident on public safety. A part of the charge of the council is to review, evaluate, and as needed, make recommendations to the chancellor to address safety matters across the system. Additionally, the council is to ensure consistent safety standards, equitable resource distribution, and effective implementation of safety protocols, enhancing safety and security across the system. The council's membership was developed in accordance with Title II, Chapter 1, Section 1.4.11 of the handbook. This council is co-chaired by Chief Eric James and I, and there are representatives from each institution that have been appointed. Okay. As it relates to the 83rd legislative session funding of the $11 million, as you referred to earlier, this was approved by the governor in June of this year, and with those funds to be expended at the end of the 2027 fiscal year. The Public Safety Council, as I mentioned, was charged with the review and submission of an allocation formula across all NSHE institutions. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Chris Fatone with NSHE to speak to the recommended allocation formula.
Thank you, Chief Vasquez. Chris Fatone, NSHE CFO, for the record. The council actually heard initially a recommendation discussion among the council, understanding that having received the campus request. So if you'll recall in the budget request, all campuses had items requested under this line item for safety enhancements for their institutions. The council, that list included lists specific to the two commands, and then in addition, items for each of the institutions. The council initially met, and the first decision the council reached was to allocate the request to fund 100% of the two commands line item requests, and then deferred to the business officers to propose an allocation method for the remainder of the 11 million across the institutions. The business officers did meet and discuss several alternative allocation methods, ultimately and rather quickly actually landing on the use of the combination of headcount for faculty, staff, students, and full-time equivalents for faculty, staff, and students. So kind of blending the question of individuals versus full-time equivalents, using both those metrics, and then allocating the remainder after funding the command requests fully on that basis. They did establish a floor, recognizing that there's, for the smaller institutions, there's similar to the way we do with deferred maintenance funds, wanting to make sure that we provide sufficient funds for the smaller institutions to be able to be effective with the allocation. They established a floor in a similar regard with this appropriation as well.
Thank you, Mr. Fatone. Go ahead, Chief. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Arnold Vasquez again for the record. So as Chris, as the Chief Financial Officer of NSHE stated, there was an allocation for both Northern and Southern commands, which was approved. And the primary, I guess if I can just speak to, for both of us for the most part, a lot of those allocations, at least from the Southern Command and as well as the Northern Command, is going to come in the form of fleet upgrading and equipment upgrading. As if you don't know, equipment in this profession is extremely expensive, in the form of ballistic vests are extremely expensive, which is where I'll be spending a big portion of the money, as well as upgrading tasers and technology that comes with those tasers. I don't know if people are aware, but the taser technology is coupled in or embedded with our body cam system. So there's a pretty hefty bill on that. If Chief James would like to speak a little bit to
advanced messaging
his allocation
strategies.
I would invite him up.
Someone has the...
Eric James for the record. I would just like to echo what Chief Vasquez says. Yes, overwhelming majority of that amount of money is going to go to replace vehicles that desperately need to be replaced. So 6 new patrol vehicles, a K9 ride, 2 motorcycles is the bulk of what we're sending it right now. Also to include the new taser, whichever version we're on, plus the body cameras, plus the storage and the licensing fees, as Chief Vasquez knows, it does cost a lot of money to do, but is a requirement that we must have. So that's where we're spending quite a lot of our money. Also to include ballistic vests.
So Metro's not going to give you any of those Tesla trucks? They got a few for you? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think that's in the cards for us right now. Okay. Okay, so just to further drive home the point on what we talked a little bit about and what Chief Financial Officer Vitone spoke to, here's the breakdown on the allocation, the blended allocation, and everything was taken into account to find that formula. So as we've already talked a little bit about that, the remaining funds of just shy of $9 million would be appropriated across the system, and which each representative from that particular institution has actually submitted prior to a request, but then followed up and confirming that that request was still valid since we made that initial request, and that they had some plans in place to make sure that those funds were going to be expended. And I'd invite Chief James to add anything if you'd like to on that.
Go ahead, Chief.
Eric James for record. No, I do want to echo one thing that Chief Vasquez did mention, though. I greatly appreciate all of the members of the Public Safety Committee that came together and unanimously voted for this across the board. I've never seen such cooperation in my life. So if you're listening, thank you very much for your assistance in this.
Well said, Chief. Just one question. Did I miss it or I don't see it? So basically that $11 million is going to go to all of these things for our police departments, right? It's not going to be used for physical security cameras, locking doors, things like that, no?
So, Chief Arnold Vasquez for the record. To answer your question, Chair, so yes, it's a combination. So there's going to be a couple of things. So as we mentioned, the first $2.1 million in total between Northern Command and Southern Command, we're going to, those funds have been allocated for equipment upgrades and the things that we've just spoke to, updating our fleet and so forth. Right. The remaining approximately $9 million, just shy of $9 million, is actually going to be allocated to the institutions. And as a part of that, those are going to be physical upgrades to the respective institution based off of needs for upgrades, implementation of a new product, whether it's surveillance cameras or access control, things of that nature, amongst other things as well. And I'll go into some of those. We'll actually go into some of those here shortly.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so on that and segueing into what we've discussed with each respective institution, I'll start with the College of Southern Nevada. So CSN currently is allocated, I need to put my glasses on, I'm sorry. Is allocated $1.8 million. What that's going to entail in their upgrades is they're going to primarily focus on access controls and surveillance cameras. Now, what they have is they do have a fairly robust surveillance camera system throughout their campuses. However, as we all know, technology, there is a shelf life on that, and those things need to be upgraded. So that's going to be a part of both an upgrading and installation of new cameras. Next, we'll talk about DRI. DRI is upgrading essentially the same and installing surveillance cameras not only at their Las Vegas campus, but their Reno and Boulder City campuses as well. We've met recently with DRI to discuss this implementation. Right now, we're working through some compatibility confirmation just to make sure that what they're going to implement at their campus is going to work with us, and that we have a direct pipeline into that as well. So there's a lot of different hurdles we need to get through, but we're making sure that we are detailed in our work with that. They're also investing in environmental design upgrades and fencing at the Las Vegas campus. We think that they've assessed that area, and they feel that that's going to be helpful to provide safety and security on their campus. Nevada State University is allocated just shy of $500,000, and they too are in the same, boat, if you will, and they're going to update some of their surveillance technology, also provide some upgrades and add additional cameras. One of the areas that they're going to focus on is access control as well within their buildings and at building entrances. And as we heard earlier, that was critical the other day, and so that's money well invested. They're also going to look at campus exterior lighting. And I'll make a note, with NSU, as with other campuses, we do an annual campus walk with UNLV and other stakeholders. I'll speak to that a little bit later. But that actually provides us the opportunity to evaluate the lighting as we have it, make sure that there's no gaps, make sure that it's all functional, and or if there needs to be an increase in lighting. So they're going to invest some of those dollars in that. The other area that they're going to invest some money is installing traffic bollards for traffic control and traffic safety. So they've identified a need where they want to be able to direct or control traffic on their campus, and this is going to be effective in doing that. And finally, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. They've installed not only with, since 12/3, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but they're going to continue their investment, and they're just a little over $2.6 million. They're going to continue their investment in emergency phones. Those are the big, tall emergency phones that you see throughout campus and strategic areas, offering the ability for anyone on campus to access a phone quickly. They're equipped with 360 camera surveillance, as well as a PA system to put out emergency notification systems and communicate with those who might not have the ability to have access to a phone, or not, paying attention to other things, but that voice could come over those particular phones. They're also upgrading and installing classroom phones. Campus lighting is extremely important as well, and as I mentioned, we do those campus lighting walks, and these are some of the areas that we've identified, additional areas to add lighting to or to fix lighting areas that have been out or are not functional. And finally, one of the areas that they've identified as well is additional access controls, which at this point is institutional funds. But this allocation potentially might add to that. But at this point, they're committed from the institution standpoint to invest some dollars in access controls across campus. With that, I'll go ahead and turn this over to Chief James to share projects for the northern institutions.
Just one question before Chief James goes on. This is really informative and really nice, but what about the NSHE building? I don't see that up there. What are they getting? What are you going to do? Are you going to put anything, upgrade anything here? I mean, we are NSHE too, aren't we?
I'm going to defer to CFO Vitone on that.
Okay, all right.
Chris Vitone, for the record, and thanks for the question. I think when we were looking at the allocation, as you could see, the small allocations to all the institutions, I think I took into consideration the fact that NSHE has 4 buildings to take care of, 2 in the north and 2 in the south. And at least in the case of those buildings, access controls are already in place. And so I did ask, that we would work with the campuses in terms of looking at how their plans would go, and if there was an opportunity to leverage something they were doing on campus, that we would take that into consideration for our buildings, but for the purposes of trying to put these funds to the most use on the institution campuses themselves, we deferred the allocation for the system admin for 4 buildings.
Okay, thank you. Now, that was just, I'm like, NSHE needs protection. The money was given to NSHE. What happened there? So thank you. I appreciate that. Chief James, go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. Eric James for the record. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before I continue, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware, because I'm pretty sure Regent Boylan, you'll have this question, that the Public Safety Council, as well as the commands, with the assistance of the chiefs of police or their designee, have been in constant communication with each institution about not only the money that they're getting, how they're spending it, but working together in a collaborative area to say this is where we can help. And yes, this sounds like a great idea. So it's not just someone coming up with something. We are working with them. And I know that Chief Vasquez is doing the same thing down south. The Great Basin College is getting $400,000, and they're going to be using that on access controls and surveillance cameras. Truckee Meadows Community College, about $725,000. Access controls, door replacements and upgrades, surveillance cameras, alarm, and motion sensors. University of Nevada, Reno, $1.9 million. Surveillance cameras, campus entrances, traffic bollards, access controls, card access readers and physical security. New security doors and hardware at building entrances. And Western Nevada College, $400,000. Surveillance cameras, access controls, alertus notification system, which works with our E2 campus to push out notifications, perimeter fencing, and traffic bollards.
You done?
And with that, I'll turn it back over to Arnold.
Okay, just a quick question. So if GBC doesn't have a standing operation thing with us, why are they getting this money? $400,000.
Great Basin College does have a standing under the NSHE administrative code. GBC falls under the Northern Command per NSHE code for police services. And yes, they have police services, and CSO is currently on campus.
Oh, okay. So I got this wrong. I thought President Amanda said that we didn't. Amber Dinelli, President Dinelli said that we don't have a MOU with the police or something like that. Well, am I getting this wrong?
An MOU with organizational resiliency.
Just for organizational resilience.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. Yes, the president has been fantastic. As you can imagine, being out in Great Basin College, they are 4 hours from Reno.
Yes.
And so we do have an officer and CSO stationed out there that patrol the campus and all the satellite campuses as well.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Vasquez. Go ahead.
Okay, well, with that, I just wanted to open the floor to the Regents to see if there are any questions in relation to what we've covered today.
All right. Now, I know everybody's hungry. We'll have a break after Chief finishes. So like the Chief said, let's open out the floor to anybody that has any questions, ideas, Regents, presidents. I don't know. Can we ask no, we don't ask the people. Okay, just any Regents, anything? Nobody? No ideas, no questions? Somebody?
Regent Gargachia for the record.
Yes, sir. Regent, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is to Chief James, and clearly we appreciate the money and the 4 campuses for GBC. But my question to you is, and I know you've got an officer stationed there, but I want to make sure the rest of the Regents understand. Now, in a case of an incident, say at Winnemucca or Ely, or even for that matter in Elko on the main campus, what kind of response do we, or where do we go for a response? Or do you have a cooperating agency agreement with City of Elko or White Pine County Sheriff, Nye County Sheriffs? Or can you explain how that works, if they do have an incident, how that works?
Yes, sir. Great question. Eric James for the record. Yes, we work pretty closely with Elko PD down in Ely, the Sheriff's Department down there. And this kind of offers a broader perspective of what we do, especially in the north. And I joke with Chief Vasquez, while he has Clark County, we have the other 16 counties that we have property in. And so we have quite a few areas throughout the state of Nevada that we have to work very closely with sheriff's departments and the local PDs, where if an incident were to take place, they would be the initial response until it has been settled on scene. We would do any of the paperwork. We would handle any of the investigation side. But that initial response, like you're referring to, that might very well be a sheriff's department or a local PD contacting us saying this occurred, and then we'll send someone down there.
Yes, well, I appreciate that. Do we have any formal agreements with them, or is that something we should be looking at? And maybe we need counsel to give me the... Go ahead.
In certain cases, yes. And in other cases, it's more along the lines of we reached out to those police departments, sheriff's departments, and they're willing to accept kind of our response. So in the, say, Ely campus, there's a high school right across the street with a SRO who will come over and assist if there's anything that needs to happen. So we do work closely, and quite honestly, we meet with, as a chief and sheriffs, we meet 4 times a year where we're able to make face-to-face contact and kind of work these things out.
I appreciate that, and thank you. Because again, and I'm just trying to, we're a little more spread out, and then I assume Southern Command and Chief Vasquez would respond if we had a real incident at Pahrump as well.
Arnold Vasquez for the
Yes,
record.
he and I have had that conversation. Matter of fact, he's actually sent someone up there for us when we had an issue up there. He's actually sent people up there, so I greatly appreciate our friendship and cooperation.
Sounds good to me. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Regent Gokuchia and Chief Vasquez and Chief up in the north. I always call you that, so I'll say that. I know it's James. I just kid with him and say Chief in the north. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and get going. Anybody else? Sorry, anybody else? Questions? No? All right. Thank you. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 12:20 and 56 seconds. Again, the meeting is now in session. The next order of business was number 6, item number 6, implementation of UNLV safety upgrades. And Chief is back. He's a popular man today. All right, Chief, go for it.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you, Chair Boylan, Vice Chair Escada, members of the committee, and Regents. Thank you again. This is Arnold Vasquez, Chief of Police, University Police Department, Southern Command, for the record. First, I'd like to say, as we approach the 2-year mark of the tragic shooting that touched the UNLV campus, I'd like to honor those lives that we lost that day, but also honor the strength that we found in one another. We've certainly come a long way, and as we move forward, I assure you, both commands, not only Southern Command, but both commands of the University Police Department, with support of the leadership of our institutions, are committed to creating a safe and secure environment across all our campuses for our students, staff, faculty, and visitors. Okay, so it looks like we got started on my slideshow. For this particular slide, I want to talk a little bit about the context and the background. So this update follows a large amount of work throughout the system and UNLV. It builds on the initial infrastructure repair, including more than 500 doors and an initial investment of additional security cameras in the immediate area of Beam Hall. Simultaneously, to support the effort, the Chancellor had created an ad hoc committee for public safety, which is now the Public Safety Council, or at least was turned into the Public Safety Council. And UNLV also created the Safety and Security Committee. Through these groups and their efforts, several funding requests were prepared and submitted, including the initial request to the Interim Finance Committee. Several federal grant submissions were submitted, and the most recent legislative request, AB 567. These requests lay the groundwork for many of the projects we see ongoing today and will carry us into the future. I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the department initiatives within the department at Southern Command. For my tenure, when I began my tenure, I wanted to build on the future. This included strengthening our recruitment and hiring as part of our strategic plan, which resulted in the hiring of 28 new police officers over the last 2 years, which continued with continued recruitment ongoing. And we were also able to fill several administrative and other civilian positions. I talked earlier at the September board meeting and talked about our vacancy rate. We have significantly cut into that. which I'm very proud of, in the neighborhood of about 20%. So we're well in the single digits on our vacancy rate. We have some pending promotional opportunities coming up, which actually will assist us with continuing to develop and raise our level of service delivery out in the field. And we also have our new CSO program. Our CSO program was expanded to the UNLV campus, which was already in place at our regional campuses, which included CSN. We expanded that to UNLV, and that consisted of 7 additional police officers, community service officers and 1 supervisor. We actually also were able to launch a UNLV student union substation. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, but we do have a substation within the student union that has enhanced our accessibility and our presence within the union as well as on campus. That particular substation is staffed by a community service officer from Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 with the exception of holidays. And so far we've been collecting some data on that particular initiative to determine its effectiveness, make some changes if we need to, but also to consider a possible rollout or launch at the other institutions across Southern Command. And I apologize, I went a little bit out of order here, but I wanted to talk about, when I first began my tenure, I met with my team and we talked about our strategic plan. And one of the cornerstones of our strategic plan was a community engagement and outreach. We put a lot of resources toward that. I've talked a little bit about it in the past with the board. The first thing we created was a community outreach and problem-solving team, which is actually a team of officers, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and an administrative staff member. Their mission is to utilize data-driven strategies to be proactive out on patrols, be innovative, reduce crime, partner with outside and internal agencies and departments to enhance our community engagement and also just improve our overall safety. They have a deeper dive into their day-to-day operations rather than just responding to calls and taking what the day brings us. They're actually out there looking for longer-term solutions and ways to actually get to the root of problems. That is a team that I mentioned earlier, as well as in the past, that has taken a very, very aggressive approach in providing additional safety presentations, different educational pieces on campus, and has actually contributed to a very, very large increase in the number of people that we've been able to touch on the campus in terms of education and training. The other thing that we have that I want to mention is our Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Grant, which was awarded to NSHE. And this was awarded to NSHE, and it supports and strengthens the behavioral intervention teams throughout the system. Additionally, it has provided us the ability to begin to pursue and hopefully soon launch an NSHE-wide awareness campaign. The implementation of the system-wide and also in a system-wide implementation of a case management system. Currently, the behavioral intervention teams, coupled with our threat assessment team that you heard from Dr. Hardy earlier, they have individual case management systems. This would be a software integration program that would allow us to communicate system-wide, which would be extremely helpful. So again, left hand knowing what the right hand is doing. It's important. And then finally, one of the areas that we're focusing and we've done some enhancements on is we're finally in the process of finalizing and revising our department website. You know, I found that when I first started that the website was a little bit not the easiest to navigate through, and that was just maybe my personal opinion. But I tasked the team and spoke to the team about how we can make that more accessible, much more user-friendly, provide ways to have website with links and different resources that we can highlight on a regular basis as opposed to having things get stale on that website.
Thank you, Chief. Are you done?
No.
Oh, I thought you were done the way you
No, I'm not
that
done.
up. I'm like, okay, sorry.
We're just getting started.
Outstanding, outstanding.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the current projects at UNLV. And actually, what I will say is immediately following the event on 12/6, UNLV made some significant investments coupled with the Interim Finance Committee affording us some funds to make some significant enhancements on campus and also with our department as well. So that came in the form of, as I mentioned, initial repairs to get business back up and running, as well as additional security measures on campus, as well as classroom access, locking buttons to doors, and also some additional surveillance cameras initially. One of the things that that they did invest in and are looking to continue to invest in is automatic door locking mechanisms. They want to have those at near entry doors and select classrooms and labs particularly. Phase one at this point was completed with over 200 automatic locking door buttons. That was completed earlier this year. I think it was in August. Phase two includes the installation of an additional 200 of those auto lock buttons, and they're expecting to complete that in the early part of 2026. Additionally, coupled with marketing and other departments, they have created operating instructions and an instructional video that was made available to faculty, staffs, and students on how to operate those locking door mechanisms. As a part of this incident, we also identified areas where we needed to have wall-mounted classroom phones. Many of the classrooms already had telephones, but there was an ongoing project to add or upgrade those phones to increase accessibility and strengthen emergency communications. During the break, I was speaking with President Amber Lopez Lassiter, and one of the things that we talked about was at that recent event at NSU, the phones actually are critical. There's a screen on most of them, and actually all of them, there's a screen. You'll see a flashing light. You'll see a message that comes up on board there. You'll have an automated address system that comes through it, as well as if you pick up the phone, it'll tell you again exactly what to do. So we talk about different layers. That's one of the layers that was identified, and they've made some significant investments in upgrading all of those phones and adding more where we're needed. Additionally, the phones were wall-mounted. This way they were in a standardized location within the classrooms, and therefore people would be able to readily access those phones. As I mentioned, this project is occurring in phases, and expected completion is at the end of this year. It includes phones to 8 different buildings between the Maryland and Medical District campuses. It includes the installation of 65 phones, all in new locations, and upgrading existing 64 phones. And that project is underway and hopefully will be completed soon. So we're talking about about 130 phones, somewhere in that neighborhood. Additionally, we talked about the big, tall, rebel-safe emergency phones earlier. Those are also commonly referred to blue light phones because they do have a way to quickly have a light that draws attention to somebody who might be in need, might be utilizing the phone to report a crime or to report something in progress that needs emergency assistance right away. I mentioned they are equipped with 360-degree video surveillance as well. They're strategically placed throughout campus through different thoroughfares, pedestrian thoroughfares, to allow that access, but also some areas that might not be traveled as frequently. So if somebody does find themselves in a compromising situation, they would at least have access to that type of a phone. It does have lighting as well, so if the need is there, that lighting would kick on and it would provide light for that immediate area as well. And they are 12 feet tall, by the way. So UNLV to date has added 5 phones and is upgrading additional phones to a newer model and some of those advanced capabilities that we just talked about. Because as I mentioned, all this, if anything is technology-based, At some point, it's going to have a shelf life. We're going to have to go back to that and upgrade it, get new software, whatever it is, and that's where a lot of these dollars go. Video surveillance. I think you see a theme here. Video surveillance is one of the high priorities. As I mentioned initially, after the aftermath of 12/6, UNLV made an investment to install some video cameras within Beam Hall, as well as the surrounding area. But they're also installing an additional video surveillance cameras in 7 buildings between both Maryland and Medical District campuses. The installation is underway, and completion is expected by the end of the year, bringing the total number of cameras, well, I don't want to say the total, but we're right in the neighborhood of about 1,000 cameras. And when I was doing some research on this, I don't have all the historical data, but it looked to me as if there was about a 5 to 8% increase annually, year over year, at least over the last 5 years, in investments in surveillance cameras by the institution. I want to talk a little bit about some of the video analytics tied to video surveillance. So the video analytics is a license plate recognition, or LPRs. You might have heard of those. This kind of crosses with both legislative funding as well as institutional funding here, but I'll quickly say from the previous presentation, some of the funds from that legislative funding is going to go toward rolling out LPRs at other campuses aside from UNLV as well. UNLV is committed to adding some of those LPR technology cameras throughout campus, primarily at the entrances onto campus from roadways. If you're aware what their capabilities are, is to really just flag what I call a hot vehicle or a wanted person, or just a particular threat that might land on our campus. So the beauty about the LPR technology is it coordinates with our local law enforcement agencies. So Metro can quickly put information in on a high-risk situation. If it lands on our campuses or one of our campuses, we're able to quickly identify that it has landed here, and we're going to address that appropriately from our department as well as with the neighboring agency as well. So that's going to be the installation is expected to start here in the next month or so. I don't anticipate it should take that long. We're expecting to have it done in the first few months of next year. We talked a little bit about it earlier, or not earlier, but in previous meetings, the emergency key boxes, or Knox boxes, if you will. That project is actually complete. That's the boxes that are on exterior parts of the building, of buildings, that allows for access or keys to be accessed for the entire building complex. So the fire department coordinated with facilities management and planning and construction at UNLV as well as UPD to identify, I believe it was 45 locations on campus that they've added those boxes to. And so, as I mentioned, those boxes are, that project is actually completed at this point. And I alluded to it earlier, we talked about increased campus lighting. Again, this is a collaborative effort where we make sure that we hit this on an annual basis. As we all know, lights go out, things change, trees grow, bushes get in the way, cobwebs come up on the cameras. We first and foremost go out there with a strategic, calculated approach to determine, do we need more lighting in a certain area? Is the lighting currently working? Is there something that we need to do to address the visibility of that particular camera or the effectiveness? And then we make those recommendations, and we then look to procure funding to make sure that those things happen. That happens on an annual basis at all of our campuses, but we have done an annual walk at UNLV as we did before, following 12/6, both in 24. I'm sorry, not both, but in 24, and we have another one that usually comes up right about this time this year when it starts to get darker earlier. So that project is in progress as well. Okay, for future projects, as a part of the legislative request for AB 567, It really allows us to continue a lot of these investments in safety. UNLV is currently in the planning phases of several projects that build on some of the current projects we talked about. They're going to continue to build on and add additional wall-mounted class phones, those Rebel-safe blue light emergency phones that we talked about, and that campus lighting. The funding also allows us to have additional resources to support not only the UNLV campus, but other campuses in Southern Command, as well as Northern Command, as we talked about. I think the biggest thing was the fleet. You heard that from both commands. The fleet, some of our vehicles are well over 10 years old, and being police vehicles, they take a beating just because they're sometimes driven a little fast, sometimes they're driven over curbs, sometimes there's a lot of other things that happen as somebody's office who takes that out on a daily basis. So those have a pretty short shelf life, and they're really hard to come by. We have to get on those lists early and make those orders. And so we've done a pretty good job, not only in the Southern Command, but I know Chief James has as well, to get ahead of that and know those timelines so we can procure those vehicles in a timely fashion. And with this funding, that's going to help us carry that forward. And lastly, UNLV is evaluating its current access control system. As I mentioned earlier, some of this is institutional funded, and that project is in the planning phases or planning stages. But with over 150 buildings across UNLV, that project is going to be much more long term. So that will likely come out in a phased approach, and we'd be happy to report on that as they start to complete those phases. Okay, well, I think that concludes my presentation at this point. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Chief. That was great. It's good to know all this stuff. I just always have an issue with, it's been 2 years and we still haven't got things done. And I'm not blaming you or anybody, but we need to do these things faster than waiting for somebody to give us a report to do something. We need to, this is really important. I mean, safety and security. Now, I read about this somewhere and I forgot. I should have sent it to you. There's a system where you can unlock all doors in a building from one place, so we don't have 500 of our doors broken down like happened that last time. That costs us money. That costs the taxpayer money. So you can get one of your students or somebody to look into it, and you just need one button and it unlocks everybody's doors. No more broken doors like we did. So another thing also, this access control system would be part of this whole thing, that you would have control of the code, that can be opened. Your cops, your people would be the only ones who could open all the doors. Now,
yes,
that with the Knox boxes is a physical thing doing the same thing like I'm saying.
That's correct.
But what I'm talking about is the advance in technology where every door will open if you have control of it. We have it in certain government buildings, but it's expensive. Yeah, the second thing, and I won't say much because our time is running out before some things happen. The next time you have these board meetings of the different committees that the Chancellor has created, you've created about the security and safety, I really appreciate it if you invited the safety regents to come and attend them and see what's happening. Okay. So the same thing you were talking about, the left hand knows what the right hand, because I'll be asking you questions. Oh, you decided that in that committee meeting, but we didn't know.
Understood.
We have no voting power there or anything, just to listen and.
Yeah, duly noted. I'll follow up with the Chancellor on that and see where we land on that. I'd be happy though, and I know from Chief James and I as a co-chair, we'd be happy to compile like a summary of some of those, or maybe some meeting minutes.
Yes.
Meeting minutes, yeah, that's correct. And provide those to you to help you kind of have some context of where we're going with things.
Ooh, yeah.
And I just want to address a couple things. You talked about the speed in which some of these things occur.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of them, and this isn't my wheelhouse, but a lot of them has to do with a lot of infrastructure and really what's in existence in some of the newer buildings versus the older buildings. and our ability to do that. As it relates to the electronic access control, that is something that is extremely expensive. And that will likely be rolled out in a much more of a phased approach. But the good thing about that is it allows us to control accessibility to certain spaces and areas, and would provide us the ability to go ahead and have all of our officers and emergency personnel the ability to access those without a hard key. The hard key is important because if we do have a power failure and we cannot access it through electronic, we have to use those hard keys.
Right. Yeah,
So
right.
there's a lot of thought that goes behind all of this and how we're going to get to those problems. And we've been working really, really hard with other departments, UNLV campus, as well as across the system to make sure we address everything.
That's a great point you made. And why I brought that up is because they're connected usually to the alternate power supply, because it's such an important thing with all the lights and blah, blah, blah. Right. This system would be connected. So the next time we get $11 million, maybe we can think of that. But totally awesome, Chief. Did Chief James in the North, the Chief of the North, have anything to say? No, we good? Oh, it was UNLV safety guards, but yeah. All right, didn't hear him. Okay, Chief, that was awesome. I really appreciate it. Any questions? Please go right ahead.
Regent Brown, for the record. First of all, I just want to once again say thank you to the legislature for allocating some of this money and taking our request serious. Obviously, December 6th was a catalyst for it, but we'd been asking for it for years. I'm surprised Mr. Robinson wasn't here to share that exact sentiment, but I'll do it for him, I guess. But I also want to say, I know that you guys and the committee are doing the best, because this isn't, you're not starting from zero. You're not starting from the ground floor and building up. You're building on top of layers. When we weren't a consolidated Southern Command, CSN had their own, Nevada State had their own, UNLV had their own, and then you've had to figure out a way to piecemeal it all together. So that's also something to just acknowledge, right? Like,
correct.
We are building something to make our campuses safer on old technology that doesn't necessarily communicate with each other, and you're finding the best possible ways to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that that point is made clear, because if we had $111 million, I'm sure we could rectify that. But $11 million does not actually go that far when you're talking about the levels that you're needing to address.
Correct, yes.
So that's it. I just wanted to share that context for situational awareness.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. That's a great point you made there. Any other regents, anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate this.
You're welcome.
It's always great hearing what you have to say. Let's move on to item number 7. And this is also an information-only policy and law related to the possession of weapons on NSHE property. And I hope Regent Downs is still there. I see him. Oh, there he is. Okay, Regent, you're there, so we can go through this. We have a quorum still. And Chief Martinez is going to lead us on this. Go right ahead. That sounded like a prayer. Lead us on this. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Jimmy Martinez, Chief General Counsel, for the record. This item was brought at the Chair's request to offer an overview of the current state of law and policy in Nevada, and NSHE policy as well, as it relates to weapons on campus. So the first thing I'll point out is NRS 202.265 is the controlling statute on weapons on campus. So what it currently does is it states that any person shall not carry or possess, while on any property of NSHE, an explosive or incendiary device, a dirk, dagger, or switchblade, a nunchuck, a blackjack or billy club or brass knuckles, a pistol, revolver, or other firearm, or a device used to mark any person with paint or any other substance. Any person who violates this and possesses any of these weapons on campus is guilty of a gross misdemeanor. And the section of NRS does leave a exception to the statute, such that it doesn't prohibit a person to possess any of these items with the written permission of the president of the institution or the chancellor. Now, if we move over, so that's NRS. From there, we have to move over to our own policy, Title IV, Chapter 1, Section 33. Section 3 sets out how someone is to go about requesting written permission to carry such a weapon on one of our campuses or any NSHE property. First, they make a written request to the president, and the written request must set forth the reasons for the request and address any applicable factors identified in the policy. It also, and I want to make sure I was getting this right. Also, if there's any weapons that are proposed to be used strictly for educational or recreational or training purposes, also needs the same approval from the president pursuant to the policy. The president's decision is one that has to be made on a case-by-case basis according to a needs assessment. Now, that needs assessment requires that the president consider the individual need to carry a weapon and determine it in consideration of, one, the specific risk of attack presented by an actual threat. Number two, a general risk of attack presented by the nature of the individual's current or former profession as established by actual evidence of increased risk of attack. And three, a legitimate educational or business purpose. Now, as you can see, these are very technical analyses that would need to be gone through by the president, and they would need to be backed by evidence in a documented report. The president's consideration of the items must also include a recommendation from the institution's law enforcement or security office. So that's the process that one has to go through in order to actually be able to legally carry a weapon on campus. There's also a time limit in our policy when somebody issues a request to the president has 10 working days to respond. The president could take longer to that based on extenuating circumstances. And if it's denied, there's also a reconsideration process where the individual could provide additional facts and circumstances that may have not been in consideration the first time and ask for the president to reconsider it. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the policy and process for Nevada and our policies on weapons on campus. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Council. Regent Downs, there he is. Did you have anything to say? I'm opening up the floor to any of the regents. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Boylan. So, Mr. Martinez, it was Regent Stavros Anthony, when he was on the board, he had brought forward a policy to allow employees of NSHE to get extra training. I think it was effectively to make employees like reserve police officers. And that would, in effect, remove that soft target status that higher education institutions typically have. I don't want to go into any details there, but it just removes that feeling that someone could go on campus and would face very little resistance. So, is the current NRS preventing that type of policy from being considered again?
Jimmy Martinez, for the record, you are correct. In 2007, Regent Anthony brought forward an item that was for a reserve police officer program where they would be provided limited training, and then they would be permitted with the exception to do this. I can't answer the question right now as to how exactly that would be carried out under the current law, because I think some things may have changed since 2007. When I looked back through that agenda item and the minutes from the discussion, one thing that was made clear was in 2007, when this was brought about, Regent Anthony was clear that he said he recognized that half of the system's campuses do not have a police force, while those that do are limited. This item in 2007 failed a vote 8-5 at that time. And then the progress thereafter was then to build out the University Police Department in a more robust fashion. Then we get to 2018 where we went into a consolidation program. So I think since then, the reason why we haven't seen anything like this come up is because the goal was to continue to build out a robust University Police Department with affiliation agreements with local law enforcement agencies to make sure that we're fully covered under everything for all events. Whether or not, if the question is whether or not this is something that the board should consider, what I would recommend and offer is that perhaps when we go through the external review of university police, maybe that's a question that we could ask them to consider as well. That way we have a subject matter expert in the area offering advice and recommendation and not, asking attorneys who are non-experts in this field, the best way to do it, what the risk is. I think, just thinking ahead and having not done all the research, I think one of my biggest concerns with something like that would be the liability aspect. But I'm sure we could, if we were to go that way, there's ways to mitigate that. It's a process we would have to go through to get there. But I think the first question perhaps for the external consultant would be, is this something that would add to student safety at this time, given our current build out of the University Police Department?
Council, Regent Downs, just one thing here. I support where you're coming from and what you're doing, because I agree with you and why this was brought forward. You talked about a robust police force. We do have that, but we still had the shooting in Beam Hall. Now, it's possible that someone on that floor may have been experienced, well-trained, carrying a weapon and could have stopped him before he killed 3, 4, 5 people, four people. 3 people, shot 4. So that's where I think Regent Downs is coming from, and I come from that same thought, that a well-trained person who knows how to handle, gone through different trainings, maybe an ex-ranger or SAS guy or something like that, they're so well-trained that we could really, be safer. I'm not suggesting that anybody in every way, I want to carry a gun. Oh, no, you'll shoot yourself in the foot. Don't carry a gun. It's not fun. So that's where I see this coming from Regent Downs. And that's possible that we could change our own policy, because what I hear from you is that the NRS says that we cannot do it. But then our policy says we can go to each president and ask them, or the chancellor. So are you saying that we override the NRS? How does that work?
Jimmy Martinez for the record. There is probably a way to build out various exceptions and a pathway to that. My recommendation in bringing that forth to the external consultant would be specifically because, if we were in court right now, I'd be objecting to speculation because we don't have an expert speaking to what would or wouldn't have happened. And then we would call in our expert to testify as to what the best practice was, what the expert would recommend. And in a room without the experts that we need for that specific question, that's why I would recommend bringing, if the committee would like, we can include that question in our request for the external consultant.
Oh, I see. Thank you. What do you say, Regent Downs? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Boylan. I would say, that would be something I wouldn't mind getting that consultant's impression of enhancing the police force with additional reserve officers that might be in the employee ranks of the institutions. And my primary concern is that I don't even know how many people would take advantage of this, but to remove that soft target status, so someone thinks that there's little resistance to doing bad things. That's what I'm after here. Is there's just such an impression, everyone talks about these so-called gun-free zones, that it's doesn't seem to be that way always. So if we can make make bad people feel less safe in trying to do bad things on campus, that's what I would be after here. And I think that's one avenue of getting that done. So I would be open to it. I wouldn't mind having another expert, because I'm not sure that where this person's perspective is. If they just think the only solution is to hire another 200 law enforcement officers to make it good, which we may not have the funds to do that. So, I mean, there might be other experts out there as well that we might want to consult in this process.
Thank you, Regent Downs. That's a great point you make. Is there anything else we can do? Like you said, we just go forward with this and bring it up the next time and work on it, right?
Jimmy Martinez for the record. Yeah, today this is an information-only item,
Yeah.
so I was just bringing forth the
Yes, sir.
update to the committee, and then when we request the external review, we can ask them to provide a recommendation as well. We have our own university police chiefs. We can include them in the conversation
yeah.
when the IACLEAR report or whatever external consultant report is brought back to committee and the board.
Sounds good. I really don't like outside consultants. I think our chiefs are more than knowledgeable, and our police officers too. But we really don't need, this is always crazy where we spend thousands and thousands on experts when we have our experts here. But I see what you're saying. Thank you so much. Any other comments? No? You? Please, Regent Brown, go ahead.
Thank you. Regent Brown for the record. So I have a lot of concerns about this agenda item. I'm glad that it's information only. I'm glad that we've having a conversation about, keeping this dialogue open. I will just say, to get a concealed carry permit is not very hard. That is to me, that would be like the lowest of barriers to entry. Like, we would have to do this. I know they talked about possibly bringing someone in to do trainings for the people who wanted it. But my question would be, who would then manage this training list? Who would pay for it? Who would make sure that people were compliant? Now we're talking about not just, a one-time, one and done. We can't even get our faculty and staff to take a cybersecurity training. That takes 2 minutes a month. And then we're going to ask them to be compliant and have somebody manage this. Like, I guess I'm speaking to my colleagues in this. Like, this is not as simple as, well, just take a training and you'll be fine, right? Like, it's not get your license when you're 16 and never have to do it again, right? Like, we're talking about a lethal weapon. And, I'm not going to bring up December 6th because we don't have anybody who could really speak to it. But more guns is probably not the answer for, if you think back on that day. We lost 3 professors, and then we got lucky that our 2 officers found the assailant, right? And that was the end of that story. And we didn't have to tell about more tragedy or, different things. And so I think this is very limited in scope in what we are talking about right now, because this isn't just, get a piece of paper, get a permit. It's managing it. It's making sure we know where people are. Earlier, you asked, how do we know where the safety zone? Well, every incident is different. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and this would fall in that same category. So I'm glad it's information only. I think it's missing a lot of components, and it's not just about adding guns. If adding guns makes you feel safe, then that's going to bring a whole other layer of folks who would feel less safe. So I think this is not a nuanced issue at all, and a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, and Jimmy Martinez for the record, this item was only to provide the information of state law and policy. So we weren't proposing to bring anything else forward at this time, specifically for the reasons you stated. As non-experts, we really don't know what we don't know in this area. And it could be that, in something like this, it would have to be sanctioned by NSHE. And then NSHE is liable for everything that these individuals do. And then you start to weigh the risk assessment, right? So that's all context for what would need to go into those types of considerations that we're not bringing forth today.
Thank you. Great point you made there, Regent.
Respond.
What? Sorry, go ahead.
If I can respond to,
yes, please do,
to Regent Brown. I wasn't suggesting that it's as simple get your CCW and now carry on campus by any means. Although states that do allow that, there are not big problems with guns on campus. In fact, there's lower dangers. So I'm referencing more section under our current Code Section 33, Part 2, I guess we go with that, and Subpart 3 under the making people peace officers. So if you went through a policy, is what Regent Stavros Anthony had, now current Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
What he had proposed was to create a reserve officer training program that would make people reserve police officers on campus. So expanding the force in that way, without the expense of having a whole force of full police officers. So that's what I was trying to consider in this process. And I'd like to have more discussion about that. And if it's not possible, it's not possible, but it could be something that could enhance our current law enforcement presence.
Thank you, Regent Downs, and Regent Brown has a response to you.
Yeah, Regent Brown for the record. Yeah, I mean, look, as we expand this conversation, you know, I would actually want, if we are going to talk about this again, when you talk about lower dangers, I'd like to see some numbers to that, because we would have to literally look at the crime rate year over year for an extended period of time with the broader community of any given institution. Then when they change the policy, look at previous years compared to, right? I mean, like, it's such a easy thing to say, like, well, yeah, I mean, look, people have guns, people are safer, you know, the crime rate goes down. Unless we can actually show some real statistics and draw out what's happening on campus versus reported versus not reported versus year over year, and then take like a chunk of time, like, I would challenge that every day to actually have real numbers if we are going to bring this dialogue up again.
Sounds good. That's a great idea. And next time, trust me, you'll have a lot of numbers. We'll do all of these things in place. Because if you look at it, he was stopped by a man with a gun, the police officer, brave police officer who did it. And yes, yeah, officer, yeah. So it's not the guns that kill, it's the people, but I hear you totally. And we will bring this up further and bring you statistics, because they are out there. Because when we see this thing, gun-free zones, the only people that are safe there are the criminals who are actually carrying guns. They look at that and they're like, that's good. People won't have guns. I'm taking mine in there. And that's, I'll say it like Biden, that's a fact. We've got the numbers for that, but not this time. I didn't prepare for that. Great idea. Anything else? Regent Downs? Regent Brown? No?
Yep. All right, thank you.
We good? Thank you, Council. Okay, let's go to our last one. Oh, that was the last one, and we changed 8, so now we have new business. Are we going right? It's now new business, right?
Yeah, I was just going to remind you, Chair Boylan, we have new business and then the final public comment. That's all.
That's right, thank you. So I'll open it up for new business. Any of the regents? New business, ma'am? No? All right, good. Regent Downs? Because we're the only ones left. No, I don't either. So new business is done, and now we'll go back to public comment. Is there any public comment at GBC? I hear none.
There is no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment at the system office in Reno?
Yes, we have one.
Go ahead. State your name and spell out your last name, please.
Hi, Gloria Charlene, for the record again, Sharlein, mother and faculty here. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all of your security efforts. I really am grateful. And with that also being said, I just want to say that I do feel safer. I would feel safer with community members that have experience with firearms as extra security layers here on campus. I do think I feel like a sitting duck here. And so I totally agree with the regent that made that reference. I do feel that way here. Also, I wanted to say that if you guys can also add and look at when political parties are here on campus, I've been to all kinds of different political party events on campus, different political parties even. I wouldn't say I'm with a certain political party, but I have seen the difference in the security depending on the political party that is here. And then now going back to the science on hormone suppression, after more than 2 years of follow-ups on the testosterone suppression, recent research citing retrospective data from military personnel in the U.S. has shown that transgender women retain an average of running speed and residual of some 12% faster than known females. And this issue demands courageous leadership of NSHE and integrity. And it's to be safeguarded so women and girls are to have the same chance after so many decades of exclusion to take part in the level playing field that is safe. Equality and inclusion does not mean that we have to have trans women in women's sports and share bathroom and locker rooms, which is happening at NSHE institutions today. When we have clear differences that need to be acknowledged, and especially in places where we're taking our clothes off. Watching volleyball women get knocked out and concussions by trans women and listening to you in our state that they protect women in women's sports, but unfortunately, they meant that they protect trans women in women's sports. This has caused my daughter to stop playing competitive sports. When you go to Senate meetings, they're only protecting trans women in women's sports, and the concerns of the science between trans women and women are not discussed. The UNR volleyball women refused to play against trans teams, and they were threatened. So is this equal, and are equal decisions being made by NC institutions today and in the last few years around trans women and women, or is only one side being pushed? We speak up, other parents too, and we're ignored. Please listen to the voices of the people actually affected in the science and allow women to continue to have a safe place and a level competitive field. It's too late for my daughter to play university competitive sports, but I pray this helps the generations of women behind her that have a safe and fair place to play sports. And we should really have a safe bathroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was going to say you're 2 minutes up. Thank you. What's next? Is there any public comment here in Las Vegas? No? SCS, is there any public comment on the phones?
There are no callers at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I've got to do that. It feels good. All right. Take care. Be safe. Thanks for being here.